order. Madam Clerk, can you call roll?
Mr. Cantala Mesa.
Here.
Ms. Frenchco. Here. Mr. Malloy.
Here. Okay, the nature of this meeting, Trumbull County Public Meeting, is to discuss and review options of transportation in Trumbull County. As we know, over the last few weeks, that's been the topic of discussion. With WRTA ending their routes they had, it's caused a little bit of an issue for people that got used to the routes that the free routes that they gave us for a few years. And the public has reached out to us since then, asking for some help for those that were left behind when the service stopped. That opened the bigger discussion of transportation in general, not only those routes, but potentially expanding to other routes in the county and the need for a transit system or public transit here in the county. And so this meeting is to discuss options that are out there. Everything is on the table, including WRTA. There's been talks of Uber, there's been talks of our own RTA system, there's been talks of obtaining our 5307 designation back, and other public transit business in regards to what other cities do that could be there. So we want to hear the concerns of those that are left behind with the old system, or that were maybe not served by the old system, but think we can serve better the whole community to make sure people can get to work. Predominantly, the main things are healthcare, shopping for groceries, and work. I myself aren't too concerned about someone just taking a bus ride to go see fall leaves change or attending entertainment type things. The necessities, I think, are where we need to start, and people need to be able to get to work, they need to be able to eat, they need to be able to get health care when they need it. And there are some people we found are underserved in those areas, and that's what we aim to do here through this meeting, is flush some things out on the table that we can explore to see what's best going to serve our residents. We're a unique county. Our population base is predominantly in the southern third. The northern two-thirds are predominantly farmland and that don't use public transit as much. We do have an Amish population in both corners of the county. They have their own transit. They do their own thing, and they haven't asked for public transit for themselves. They have their own private transit system that seems to work well for them. So with that, I guess I'd like to start out with a review of a meeting that was held on October 18th. It was attended by Commissioner Kendall Malesa and our Transportation Director, Mike Salamone. So Mike, if you want to kind of give us some briefing.
Correct that. Those who, you said that they don't use public transportation, I think we need to make sure that it's known that there has never been public transportation for the general population for them to use. So there's a difference between saying, okay, they don't use it, and actually many of them do use public transportation if they're
okay. Well, I guess let's do it this way then first. What is covered in the county? What do we have in the county as of right now, Mike?
So presently what we have in the county is through a 5310, which is for senior and disabled. But seniors in Trumbull County is for 60 and up.
Okay.
The actual grant is for 65, but because of the senior levy, it's 60 and up, and the other part's disabled. So the part that we're not covering is anybody under 60, is the general public.
Okay, and when you say 60 and up, is that for any reason?
For the
to go visit a family member, to go shopping, to go to a store, to go to a doctor?
So the way it presently works, and we're hoping to, because we're gonna be getting some more funding in January, so we're hoping to open this up a little bit. But presently, for doctor's appointments, we do as many in 1 week as needed. For employment, we do as many as needed in a week. For non-medical, which would be the grocery store or something of that nature, we're only, at this time, doing 1 a week. However, like I said, we may be getting extra money through the 5310 program. I'm talking with Diane, and I think we are under budget at this point that we can open that up to do more than one non-medical. Now, the non-medical, they do have to be approved, sometimes through me or Diane, and there will be times where for example, we have a client that her spouse is spouse is in a nursing home, and she wants to go 2 days a week. I approve it. Yeah, I'm just saying, so there are circumstances I will approve, so more than once a week.
Okay. And disabled, what's the qualification for disabled under the system we have?
Under the system, the disabled is, it's a 2-page application. The first page is filled out by the, client. Second page is filled out and signed by a physician that knows doctors.
Now, could it be a temporary disability, someone broke a leg,
It could be
can't
temporary
drive for a while, can't
disability,
ride a bike?
Right, on the, application, it says temporary disability, and they write in how long they think it will be. And I actually have 2 on the system right now, they're temporary. One, I think she's gonna be dropping off, I think, and the other one I've got just reinstated.
Okay.
Now they're permanent.
In that process, we have 4 providers, and they have to schedule the appointments for that.
Yeah, correct, they have 4 providers, and, the way the scheduling works is, and here's where people sometimes get misunderstood, but it's okay. It's a minimum of 48 hours. They think it's 48 hours period, it's a minimum. You can schedule up to 2 weeks, even beyond that sometimes. So the sooner you know something, the better you're off to call and schedule. So we can do up to 2 weeks stuff, and most of the providers will do 2 weeks.
Do we make exceptions less than 48 hours? If someone gets a doctor, or someone falls and gets hurt today and they need to go to the hospital, do we make exceptions, or has that happened?
I hate to say it, the answer could be no more than yes. The problem is, all these vendors have already set up their schedule. And unless they have room on that schedule, then they might do it, but 99% of the time, the answer's gonna be no.
Okay.
I have had the client call and say, yeah, can you do it? Just, just to find out. And so, I know I've had 1 or 2 that did say yes, but.
So that may be a gray area to look at too.
Right, that's
Someone
another
has,
gray area.
something comes up, they just found out the family member's in the hospital,
Yeah,
they don't feel good, they wanna go to urgent care or something
Right.
like that. So that is
With all due
another
respect,
void.
Commissioner, if you wanna understand what's currently happening, that's outside of what we're,
It's not outside
No,
of
there's
it.
Can we-
We're
can we move
delineating
on?
what we have coverage for, and then we can figure out what we need
okay.
coverage for.
But the
That's all part of this.
hypotheticals, let's just try to keep the meeting moving.
I think it's pertinent, so.
well, and the very last item I have is other public transit, so we're definitely still in the realm.
Okay.
So that's not a problem. And anything else that we wanna talk about with transit is on the table.
Okay.
'Cause I
So-
have it on here.
We've established what we have service
Yeah.
for. Now, what we need service for are the people under 60, people that need things within 48 hours. And that could include, anybody under 60 for any reason.
Correct.
Let's not focus on 60 and older, except for those gaps and voids, I guess, at this time, or non-handicap, or I should say handicap.
Yeah.
We have a solution there already that's there. Now, do you wanna review what you talked about?
Let me just say one more thing
Yes.
regarding this. Regarding the 48 hours, that's part of the RFP, so we can't change it until we do a new RFP. However, even most transit systems are 24 hours. There's some of them, they're trying to go same day, but that's a big leap for a lot of systems. Because again, you plan a schedule, you already got your drivers out there, things of this nature, so it's a little difficult. And so I'm not saying you can't do it, it's just a big leap to go that way. So maybe we can go from 48 to 24, that's a possibility.
Could you please repeat that?
I'm sorry?
Could you please repeat what you just said? Maybe
Okay.
we can go from,
Okay, presently, the 48 hours is part of request for proposal. It's a two-year request for proposal. So we can't change that until proposals, till these contracts are done. In that contract, we possibly could put in 24 hours instead of the 48. So that would be a possibility. And what I was saying was, a lot of transit systems, because I've been doing this for a while, okay? And a lot of transit systems, they are 24 hours minimum. Just because trying to do same day with a transit system is really difficult, because you don't always have extra drivers just sitting around to pick people up, so.
thank you.
Yeah, that's an eligible activity under 5307 too, is to, instead of doing the fixed route, you can also do hour on demand.
Yeah.
Okay, and again, let's get to the review now of the October 18th meeting of
Okay. pass it back to, okay, sorry about that. All right. So, on October 10th, like you said, we did have a meeting to go over transit, it was Chuck Dyer, Dean Harris from WRTA, Commissioner Cantala Mesa, and myself. It was actually a very good meeting. The main question I had on there was,
Sorry.
can we receive any other funding from the state where you're not a 5407 designee? Bottom line of the answer is, no, we cannot.
And that's what I've been saying for the longest time.
Yeah. So the bottom line is, no, we cannot. If we want any other, except for the 5310, if we want any other funding, which they have a lot of funding, we cannot, so.
And this is what you were looking into over the last couple of years, is alternates. Alternates.
Yeah.
Because we had that meeting, and then you
Yeah.
said, I'm gonna find out a solution
Right.
in 2 years, so.
Yeah, so that's a definite, so the question comes down, and this, I'm going into number 3 for a second, but I'll come right back to it. Do we wanna go after the 5307? That's gonna be a whole nother topic, but, so, the main part was the 5307. We did talk about,
I don't wanna cut you off like
No,
that.
no, I
Just
want you-
so we're talking alphabet soup here, so everybody understands. Talk a little bit about what 5307 is and what.
okay,
so
yeah,
everybody
I
understands.
apologize.
We automatically
He's already
assume
said it, he's already
Right.
said it, 5307 is for the general public.
Well,
Can we,
I apologize. With the federal government, they like to use lots of numbers, okay? 5310 is a grant, and it's for senior and disabled, okay? 5307 is a general grant. It can be for senior, disabled, it's for capital, which are buying buses and things of this nature,
I
and
think
also be used for operating.
5339 is for capital,
5339 also is
Yeah.
another one that you can use for capital.
but you
So
have
that's
to
what
meet
I'm saying.
RTA as well.
Right, so that's what I'm saying. With the federal government, there's all kind of grant numbers that are out there, and that's how this whole thing,
And WRTA is a 5307, that's why
Doesn't
we're
it?
talking,
Yeah, they're-
that name comes up right
Yes.
now.
they're 5307 grants, yeah, they're.
But you said they're not, they are the UZA, so they're able, we have one, so all the money that comes through to our region, which now it does not include Western
Pennsylvania, correct.
It used to, but now it's just
It's our
Trumbull.
two tunnels.
Yeah, it's R2 County is it, that's it. So,
Okay,
all of
we-
it that comes to the region goes through them because they are the designated.
And we used to be a 5307 ourselves?
Correct,
No, it's
not
called-
us.
It's,
Let me,
it's
Commissioner-
not, no, let me, so it's not a, it's not a.
Commissioner, he's the transportation administrator, you can correct him, but
It's a 53,
give him the respect.
it's not being called a 5307. That is the title of a source of funds for the,
Okay.
that includes.
so we used to be our own RTA, we used to be our own
No.
what?
No,
No,
it was
no.
a transit board
Okay.
that allowed us to be able to, that transit board was the designated recipient, and they were able to apply.
Instead of a
No, they
WRTA, they were
No,
equal.
they-
No, they weren't, that's what I'm saying.
City of Warren.
Right, and then, let's back up here,
Yeah.
let's back up for a second, guys.
But they applied for it.
Hang on. The way this whole thing started, it started with City of Niles.
Oh, yeah.
City of Niles was the original 5307 designee. At some point, and I was not here, but at some point they said, we don't want it anymore. They handed it off to the City of Warren.
Yeah.
And then at that point, again, I wasn't here, so I don't know the complete history, but the commissioners took it over and they did a Trumbull County board at that point. And the board ran the transit system. Now, what you are right is, the Trumbull County Transit Board was a 5310 designee, not a 5307. 07 was City of Warren. Back in, I wanna say 1920, somewhere around there, I apologize, I don't have the dates in front of me. City of Warren gave up that designee because
you mean
of
2020?
2020, yeah.
No, when we
No,
did.
no, when they gave up the designee, it was
when-
2020.
Yeah.
It was 2020,
Correct.
yeah, so anyways, they gave up the designee, they just didn't want it anymore, there was just too many,
They're frustrated with what
Headaches
was
with
going
it.
on.
so that's.
Well, why did we give up our designation?
We
Why did
never
we get
had
rid of our
designation.
transit board?
So Warren then took theirs, and they sent theirs back to WRTA through the MPO. So there was a resolution that was made by the MPO, and then that went down to the governor to sign off on, and that's how it went back to WRTA.
So the board was dissolved in August of 19 or 20, 20,
Or-
2021.
Yeah, actually,
Okay.
Carl would know he's on.
Yeah,
It was
he's on.
2021, because I was
Right,
here
yeah.
when it just,
in August, because there was no money coming in at that point. What happened, and again, if you want me to go back a little further, what happened was, we had the funding coming in. Terry Thomas Community Bus Service, and this is like my first or second meeting I was even at, said, I'm taking the Trumbull County Education Service money away from you, from the board. That was $250,000, Carl, something like that? So he started this ball rolling back then when he took $250,000 from the board. Then participating communities started dropping out. 5307 designee, Warren dropped out. You don't have any money to run the system.
Gotcha.
I mean, that's really progressive steps that happened, and that's why the board was finally dissolved.
and
And then it came
also,
back into-
they were unfundable for a period of time, because of the problems that were going on with the management, with community busing.
What it was,
And-
again,
Let's be
no, I'm
clear
gonna be
here.
honest with you.
Okay,
What it
so
was two things.
there were 27, I think there were 27 findings or
Right, there was
something like,
something like that,
something like
but
27.
there were
It
two
was
major,
not properly-
findings, no, I know, Commissioner, but
Okay.
I'll tell you what it is. There were two major findings when I walked in the door. One was, we did not have a DBE. The other was, we did not have a Title VI.
Yeah,
And because of those two findings, we could not draw any money down
right.
from that. So you're
Yeah,
right on.
So we're completely
And the other findings were
unfundable. Yeah.
able to fix. I mean, so I had to take care of those two things first, right up at the disadvantaged business enterprise. I apologize again, I'm using these things. It's called disadvantaged business enterprise policy and a Title VI policy. Get them to FTA, have them approved. Once they are approved, then we can start drawing money down.
But that was two of several findings.
Yeah,
in the
that was just
20,
two of,
yeah.
right, correct. But those are the major two that were there.
And so because of that, the transport wasn't able to be funded.
Right.
So it made perfect sense for the city of Warren to do what they did, because, we were not able to be funded. So they sent their designation, and there was
Was Warren
there was-
paying into
there
that
was
system we had
questionable
before, or was it just the
there was
county?
questionable,
They were.
management too. So it was, at that time, they were participating communities, and so every
Right.
community would come in
Put
and
in with a little bit. There was
small amount.
a formula that Community Bus Service put together, and it was based on population. Not trips or anything else, it was based on population. City of Warren was putting in the most, and I don't remember if it was 25, it might have been 25,000. And then everybody else was putting in,
But all the participating communities had skin in the game, they all had,
there was, again,
Some type of
Carol,
a-
there's about 15,
Yes, all
10 or
of,
15, yeah.
all of them,
Wasn't all of them. No,
What's
all
that?
of
a lot of them didn't have riders.
Right.
all of them that were delivering services, or saying they were delivering services, were where they had rides. So they would take the zip codes, and that's how they were finding out where the riders were coming from, and that's how they calculated that.
Yeah,
And that wasn't done very well at the time.
Yep.
right.
Rides were not being delineated, correctly with, even Howland. There was a time we were arguing with Howland because,
Zip codes
they
on.
said
Howland,
Howland was getting no
Lordstown.
rides.
Champion.
And I'm riding the system 4 or 5 times a week, and I live in Howland, so I know that's wrong.
Well, the zip codes don't
Yes.
necessarily delineate. where
Right,
you
so you
live.
had to do it a different way.
But that's how-
Flawed system.
That's
Right.
how it was being done. Everything basically was being done by the contractor rather than the administrator.
did we have an
Well, with the
administrator?
approval of the
One of-
transit,
that was
with
one
the
of-
approval of the
That was
transit.
one
Right.
of the problems that, the FDA had as well, so.
Right.
Martha, you had something?
Well, I was going to say, that was, I went on the board in 19, and that was one of the things that we had to work on with the provider to get, was instead of doing it by zip codes, to figure out a way to do it by, we had talked about voting precincts or something like that, because we felt that was probably a closer thing, but it was trying to get them to implement it within their system was like pulling teeth.
It was difficult.
Well, and they eventually did.
Yeah, I mean, it took a while.
It took a while, but they did.
I think
You
I was
did.
I think I started
Yeah,
spring of 19, and it was one of the first things I mentioned, and it was
right, yeah,
months and months and months.
before they did
It was
it.
before COVID, but it was
Yeah.
still.
Yeah,
It's
and they eventually
something
did.
that should have been very easy, very difficult for everything.
And the other part, the way it was working was, if you were a participating community, and again, there were like, let's say 10 of them, people in those areas were charged $2 for general public and and the ones that were not were charged $4. So there were two different,
Fee structures.
Participating communities were putting in 50 cents per head in, their, in whatever, city, municipality, or township. And with the riders in those participating communities would get a ride for $1.50.
$1.50, sorry,
A ride for $2.
or whatever it was, yeah. There was a difference in price.
That's Carl
Also-
Clement speaking there.
Also, at that time, they were using senior levy money, as leverage funds for a federal grant application for the 5307, which was the general public, and that was misrepresentation on the federal grant application. So when Ohio law says that the levy funds can only be used for the object of the levy, which would be, it's a senior levy, it can only go to seniors. For disabled, it can only go to disabled populations. But they were taking that via a resolution before I came, that I caught my first meeting and said, hey, what's going on here? And leveraging that money for special populations in order to obtain millions of dollars for the general public, and they weren't necessarily delivering. So it was kind of, in my opinion, it was scammy, and that's why the FTA got involved and the Inspector General was looking at it. So that's something that that's why you need to have a designated funding source. And they were using the senior levy as a designated funding source for the general public, which is contrary to how things should be done.
Well, there's also another part to that. And that was, and this is with, what was his name? HBK, what was his name?
Phil?
Phil, thank you.
Yeah.
Phil.
O'Hara.
Mhm.
You can use, in regards to, leverage, you can leverage senior levy for a grant. However, the key is, it has to be shown that there's $100,000 going in for leverage for senior and disabled,
Mhm.
and $100,000 coming out, and you gotta show the trips. Bill from HBK said, that's easy enough to do. The board never approved it. So there you go, that was the other part of this board that they just, yeah. Okay.
Okay.
Everybody used that, and the seniors were getting their share of prorated money, accordingly, but we could never get the contractor to comply with that. And, just knew how many senior trips actually were being, because the numbers varied all the time. Every time we would get, and at the time, it was used for public money.
Yeah.
But they would give the public rides, the senior rides, and the disabled rides. And then we were working with the veterans too, and the veteran rides. But the numbers never jived. They just never, ever quite matched up.
Right.
He's right.
They could have very easily, but we had to keep
Yeah.
back.
Yeah, 'cause that's
And-
Phil
But
said
that's
it.
not to say that that money cannot be leveraged for federal
Correct.
dollars.
Correct.
See, that's where we got completely turned around here. That money can be used for federal.
It just has to be shown on the books,
Right.
how it is, yeah,
Not for general public.
right.
Yeah.
It should just be shown,
Yeah,
like I said, that's
only
what's
for
covered.
the seniors, and that was
Or
another problem.
disabled, or whatever.
Yeah,
That-
seniors and
That's up
disabled.
for debate. That is up for debate.
And,
We can get a legal opinion from the FTA on that.
Yeah,
okay.
so, anyways, let's just, if you wanna throw in anything about the meeting,
Yeah.
Well, I thought it was a good meeting that we had initially. Obviously, everybody in the room knows that we lost the grant, or the grant ran out. You know, we had a 3-year, plan in place with transit. And, you know, 2 years into it, we get sort of the rug pulled out from under us. We were thinking we were gonna have it for 3 years. And, Commissioner, can I please speak?
Yeah, but I'm just taking notes.
So we didn't have any WRTA before 3 years ago,
No,
for the past 10, 20,
no,
30,
never.
40, 50 years.
It was,
We had
it
Warren
started,
Express.
Warren Express.
Warren
It's always
Express,
been there,
correct.
because that's
Okay.
done out of the WRTA with a special grant.
So that one route has been there, but we didn't have all these other
No,
routes
it
4 years ago,
started
10
one-
years ago,
it started
15,
1 month
people
before
going to
COVID.
Packard, people going to GM,
No.
never had bus routes that way.
never.
No.
Okay, so this is a new thing they gave us,
Right.
we got people hooked on it, and then they pulled the plug on it, and said, now pay us.
Yeah.
That's not correct. Let me make this clear.
pull the plug.
No,
They knew the grant was going to run out, everybody knew the grant was
Yeah.
going to run out. They needed to match some money forward to show good faith to the state of Ohio,
Right.
so they would continue it, because remember, it was only a test route. It was not meant to be permanent unless you had continuous match. So don't say it was.
So it's just a test, so we have to evaluate
It was
the
a
test
pilot.
then, on whether the test worked or not,
Right, so,
whether it was viable or not,
correct.
with the use of taxpayer dollars.
so what happened is it was known, we saw the writing on the wall, FTA saw it, everyone saw that the transit board was unfundable, there were management problems, there were all these issues. Warren wanted to send their designation to WRTA, and the general intent was to join, and then ODOT was providing a temporary safety net, so to speak, for us to, that was their plan, to have that service ready with the buses in the interim. And all of us were aware that that was going to expire because of, I think, COVID and they did
Right,
extend
COVID,
it.
they extended because of
They extended
COVID, correct.
one more year, but there was never an intention for that to be more than the amount of time that it would take for Trumbull County to see if the voters wanted to participate and join.
Did, when Warren gave their designee and they gave it to WRTA, where'd that money go now? Why isn't that money still being used for it if Warren gave their designee up?
Okay, I'll explain that. That's okay, so it comes to this urbanized area through the designated recipient. However, Trumbull County is not a part of Mahoning County, and they can only spend in their area. So in order for Trumbull County to be able to receive the additional money through the 5307 or for the 5339, which would be for capital, like buses and things, we would have to be a part, we would have to join them, or, like they were saying, get our designated recipient status back, which.
Could Warren get it easier than we could, since they gave it up?
We can also use a split agreement. The MPO, and, Ms. Frenchco is correct, that, Region 5 has actually changed. The MPO is the Metropolitan Planning Organization, which each state oversees. But right now, it is uncharted, but we could still enter into, and we entered into a split agreement with, the MPO and Mahoning County before with the Transit Board. We can enter, and this is where the legal people are gonna have to get involved, and they are gonna have to get with ODOT, get with the FTA. We can get a percentage, and Michael, it's kind of explained it, but the way that, they come up with population density, rides, and, man hours, and I don't even know if that has changed. But we could enter into a split agreement with the WRTA without joining WRTA. Everybody understand that right now. And if I wanna bring WRTA back too. I don't wanna join WRTA, just my opinion, just my opinion. But Dean Harris and his people in the fixed routes, we can still do this if the public and everybody in this room works together. Nobody's gonna get everything they want, but come on, guys, let's move out of the dark ages, quit being complacent, set a plan, and then use ODOT and the FTA to help us, execute the plan.
But then there would need to be a dedicated funding source at the same time in order to enter something like that.
Right.
And that's what we don't have in Trumbull County.
That's what
So
we'll be talking about
that's
down the road here.
That's the impediment, and
We got two comments, yes. You got one.
How the federal
Say your
money,
name first.
Janet Hazel,
Yes.
how the money's coming in, they vote on how the money gets split. When Niles created their system, the Warren Express existed. When Niles created their system, they took that money. The Warren Express did not exist for a few years, because there was not the federal funding. It came back in 2011, do I know?
Like that.
Yeah, 2011, September 2011, because WRTA had, so many people that needed that route. They sort of they work some of that federal funding. But the money that we're getting is courtesy through that, it comes and goes. The money that's now designated here actually helps pay for that Warren Express, which transports 14,000 people a month. So it's the third highest route on WRTA. But that money has moved back and forth. So that's where the federal money's going right now, funding that route that spends, it's probably 85% of that route is actually in Trumbull.
And is that still CMAQ that is
No.
funding that?
No.
No, it's not.
No.
It's off the pilot.
That's a part of the split
Yeah.
that comes in from the federal government that's voted on, that used to be the 3 counties they would do.
Right.
Now it's,
The state and the Fed have for 3 or 4 years used the catchphrase regionalization.
yeah.
And they have wanted that, and actually, their idea, or everybody's idea, it makes sense that we should be a regionalized transit system, but not necessarily one system, but systems that are connecting with each other and cooperating with each other. And those, everybody that has an idea and would love to see the buses come back in there, how do we do that? And how do we do that without fighting, coming up with a concrete plan and going ahead and saying, well, I think this has wheels, and try to work towards it.
Sir?
Don Spencer. Now, I know before the fixed routes were taken out, okay, the director of our WRTA had filed for a federal grant to continue them. It was denied, okay? Why couldn't he possibly file for another federal grant?
He did apply with OTPP funds and got approved. And right now, that's $300,000, and then we have to match it for operating costs.
No, he did not do that.
Yeah.
No. It was a letter that we received from ODOT, from Chuck Dyer, and he stated, we found this money. I'm actually the one that applied for the grant. I've got the letter right here.
Okay, well,
We
I
both
talked
have
to
a letter
Dean, yeah,
from
okay,
him.
well, I talked to
Yeah.
Dean
No, he did not
and
apply.
and
Yeah.
Anyway.
ODOT and Chuck
So
Dyer.
anyway,
Yeah.
no, the letter
So he
came the
was
day
kind of
after.
Our
Our
Dean should be here today,
I know.
or some
They
He's
came
in Florida.
representative if they
So-
cared.
Yeah, he's on
Anyway, to
vacation.
answer your question, the way the OTPP, the way this grant works with ODOT, you apply for it. He applied for 2023 and 2024 and 2025 money, okay? When he got denied, he tried it again, and they denied it, okay, for 2 years. So we already knew that, but this last go-around was a 2-year deal, it was 2024, 2025. So the next time anybody, not just WRTA, can apply for any state grant will be next April or so. That's when we can apply again for this.
So there is the ability for 2 routes right now, if the county would pay
If-
the $300,000.
Right.
And they've already identified the Elm Road route and then the Northwest Warren
Right,
route.
correct.
The 2, but then the county, that wouldn't even be able to start until March, I believe.
Correct.
But we would have to make sure that we have an agreement in place with the resolution, and then we'd have to make sure that we have the funding, which we could also go to the city of Warren, because they're in Warren, and find out if they want to contribute to at least keeping those 2.
Right, so that's something else that we'll be talking about, yeah.
But that's just a Band-Aid, that's for, that's
Correct.
a 1-year,
This is a
Right.
One-year
small
deal
Band-Aid, 'cause this is
where
the-
Warren kicks
Right,
in,
so-
we put up our 300,000 combined, and they give us 300,000 more, we got 600,000.
Right.
To keep those routes going for a
So,
year.
correct, so here, if you don't mind, let me just, okay, so regarding this meeting, we ended up pretty much on a good note. During the meeting, Commissioner Cantal Mesa said, we were talking with Dean Harris, saying, what about doing a separate contract? We'll put money in, so on and so forth. The next day, and I've got it right here, at 1 o'clock, I get a, email from ODOT saying that they found, $297,000. They're willing to give it to, they're willing to give it to WRTA if we can match it. So it's a 50-50 match, so we have to come up with $297,000, and if we can do that, goes back to what you just said, we could possibly run 2 routes. I was at Dean Harris's office yesterday, and the one route we're definitely gonna do would be the Elm Road route.
But you can't do that, again, like, most of the people who are riding from downtown to the Elm Road, they're coming from other places, so you have to look at the area from which they're coming to make sure that it's, and that's why they looked at the northwest one, because
Right.
that one made the most sense.
Right, those were the 2 routes that we looked at.
Well, I know the Elm Road bus, okay? I live at the Elms, behind Warren Plaza.
Mm-hmm.
There are a lot of the residents in there, in the Elms, that depended on that Elm Road bus. Or transportation, whether it's the doctors, work, whatever, okay? Whenever the Elm Road bus was running, okay, I took the Elm Road bus every day, about 3 days a week that I went to work. I depended on that bus. After they got rid of them, I didn't know what I was gonna do. And then I got a hold of Senior Levy Transportation, because I work down at the Warren Scope Senior Center. And now I have transportation to Comfort Caravan. They come pick me up for 3 days a week, take me to work, bring me home.
So here's my,
So, real quick.
Yeah.
So the 300,000 that we can possibly access, if we come up with the 300,000
correct,
local match, which I think all 3 commissioners are very eager to do.
right,
I think we can actually swing that. And
Right.
even though it's an expensive thing, we know that a lot of people rely on these routes. My question is, 2 routes, when we had the 5 routes through the grant,
right.
they were approximately 200,000 each. How come we're not getting 3 routes?
That was a question I asked
Because of the
yesterday.
hours,
Part of it,
Yeah,
correct. It's a combination of things.
because of the.
And
If
we-
it's more beneficial to go less hours and 3 routes.
Well,
That's
you could
something
do
we have
that,
to
that's
come up
another thing we can look at. In other words, they could, right now, the Elm Road, both these routes will be 1 hour apiece.
Mhm.
Be a 1 hour,
with. Okay.
You don't,
Okay, I'm
Yeah,
just,
right.
yeah.
That's what it would be.
That's the question.
But here's the reason, when I talked to Dean Harris yesterday, because I asked him this exact same question, and I knew that was gonna come up here. There's 2 reasons for this. The one route that went to Lordstown was not a complete route. It was an express route, and it wasn't an all-day, so there was less hours on that route. Other part of it was, when you have an express route, you do not have to do, complimentary paratransit,
okay.
okay? So that route was a lot less, so.
So it brought down the price.
Brought down the price.
Gotcha.
And so some of the routes.
So it
were
wasn't
not-
necessarily 200,000 a route.
Correct.
It was more
We-
like 300,000, but that
It
route.
just looked
made it
like
low.
it.
Depended on the route
Right.
and the hours.
And the
the
hours and
variables.
things, right, so that's why. The other thing that Dean did tell me yesterday was, they did have to kick in some of their own money to finish it out. I couldn't tell you, he didn't give me a dollar amount or anything, but he did say there really wasn't enough money to finish for 1 full year.
They really didn't have to, but they did.
So, when I was there yesterday, here's what I have at this point. The routes would start at 6:40 in the morning, and they would run to 5:40 PM, 5 days a week, Monday through Friday. Now, here's what I got from, Dean Harris at the meeting yesterday, and maybe you did too, okay?
Yep.
They have to have an answer, not just an answer, we gotta have everything up and ready to go by the end of December
Yes,
for this,
quick.
yeah. They want an answer, we need the MOU and whatever else, we need all this by the end of December to get this started sometime between middle of March and April 1st.
Yep.
It depends on when their run board starts. So,
I think the answer is yes, and we
well,
want
the
it
answer,
It
okay,
would be, yeah,
on the part of the board.
the Elm and the northwest, but at the same time, I wonder if Warren would contribute.
Right, yeah, we
Right.
don't wanna say yes here, and then Warren just says, oh, commissioners are gonna do it, they already said yes, we don't wanna do anything.
I think at the end of the day, we want those 2 routes. I think that Warren recognizes that 90% of the ridership comes from the city of Warren, and that they should contribute something to this, if we wanna keep those routes in existence. We need to make that very, very public,
right,
because, we're not gonna go at it alone as a county. I think it's smart, when we look at these participating communities, we have data now. We know where the rides are coming from.
Right,
So these communities need to assist the county. It can't just be the county going at this by itself. It needs to be the city of Warren helping. But yeah, we need those two routes.
right,
It's-
and going
The
back,
Elmwood's the most.
right, and going back to the city of Warren,
And by the
We-
way, the other routes that we had in those five weren't all that great.
right,
But at
Let's
the
be
same
honest.
time, hang on, they fed into that, so there may be people then out there who,
That might-
who
It's an
were going,
expensive
no,
feeder.
hang on, who were going to downtown to catch the bus in order to go to Elm Road. So that's the thing, like, if you just put together the Elm Road route and left it there, then it's only gonna get people from the Warren Express. So those other ones are like the arteries into that route.
Yeah, but we can run arteries all over the county,
Yeah.
so we're not gonna run an artery to Kinston,
No,
we're not gonna
but
run an artery.
we have certain populations with, obviously, we try to address some needs with food deserts and things like that, and there are still people riding bicycles to work. And I just got another complaint or a concern, and a citizen that I'll get a
Gets
name
me.
for, yeah.
yeah.
And they're concerned, what are they gonna do, when it starts snowing?
Yeah.
And they're riding their bikes an hour to Lordstown.
And that's where we need to look at other things like dealing with the businesses in Lordstown and finding rideshare programs to
And,
go
and what
along
have you
with
come
this.
up with? 'Cause
and
that was
finding
something that we
Ubers for
talked
people
about.
like that.
Well, the interesting part was, and, I don't know if Murder's on the phone from Eastgate, she talked to the HR director, that's the one you talked about,
Right.
and as far as they know, there's nobody losing their jobs up there, and there's nobody using the bus. So, we're kind of left.
So we
in-
can't work on theoreticals.
Accurate, because I,
Hypotheticals.
Right, no, I know, but I'm just saying, that's where I need the names, and like I said, I have a list of,
well, maybe the organization should post something up, where you clock in and say who has lost their ride or was using transportation, so that they could,
yeah,
you're
I
not
mean,
going to be able to just
right, so I do have 7 names.
figure it out.
Right,
Yeah.
but what I'm saying is we surely can't ask the residents of Trumbull County or the citizens of Trumbull County in Howland and Champion and Bristol and Mecca to pay for hypothetical, maybe people
Right.
from Warren wanna get to Lordstown, maybe they don't. We can't tax or base a tax or base
And it,
our fee income structure based on what ifs and buts.
right.
What about, while we're looking for people to, put skin in the game, the city of Warren, the city of Niles, participating communities, WRTA has eliminated the fares, okay? Now, to be fair to everybody, why should we tax the entire county, that some of those people will not use it? But what about putting the fare back in? And this is just, I know if we can get something for free, but those buses don't run for free, and they don't get, what about bringing, the fares back as a fair means for a person to get from point A to point B?
I agree too.
A nominal
Nobody,
fare.
No, we don't want fares.
nobody paid for my gas to get to work. Why should I pay for your gas to get to work?
Well,
Give me another reason to use it.
Nothing is free.
I'm poor, I can't afford to pay fares. A lot of people can't afford to pay fares, there's no reason that we need to pay fares. We don't need a fare system.
I have to pay a fare every time I
RTA has a fare,
ride,
right?
or disabled or senior system. I pay a $2 fare one way.
It's a nominal
W-
amount.
WRTA
Right.
A fare
That's
free
nominal,
system.
and,
The
but it is still a
remove
contribution.
barriers.
The problem you have is in order for WRTA to collect fares, they have to have their software and their fare boxes working. They don't use them now because they don't have fares and the other thing. So you're talking about an expense. For all I know, they haven't updated their fare box software because they haven't used it in 3 years. Now you're talking about basically them running a system here and there that might not, you know.
Well, to go on to that point, with the fares, it's not just that, it's also, you gotta have 2 people to count the money. That's an FTA rule.
Right, yeah, and you.
And if it takes,
yeah.
let's say it takes an hour to count that money, that's 2 hours out of somebody's, out of a workday.
Right, and
to
then
count
you're
money, yeah.
managing.
What if we approached it a different way? As we do in the senior levy and disabled, we do have a $2 fare for the riders. What if they purchased a ride trip, something, and all they do is give that little token to WRTA when they take the ride?
Yeah.
We know that fare is the don't
It's
want
just
to
an alley. You should
Well-
have told you that.
Okay, we,
of the
they
ride.
can't talk over each other
Why?
like that.
Because somebody just
I
says,
don't
I
even
wanna
know.
go for a ride, I might need that today, I need just today, where are they gonna get the cash?
You can't individualize this, but if you put it in as a program, one person, yeah, that may happen. But you can't just say, well, one person may need a ride today, at least you're gonna work on the problem that exists. It exists a problem, so one person has that, we figure something out. But
The
if-
amount of money you get
Well,
on the
I disagree
fares
with you.
is
I
minimal
disagree with you.
compared to
You're
what
wrong.
they're operating.
No, I'm not wrong.
Yes, you are.
You don't wanna pay a fare, that's why you're saying that. I'm saying that if they.
Fares only
Ma'am,
cover
can you-
25% of the cost
Okay,
of the
ma'am,
ride.
let's go one at a time,
Okay,
please.
so let me talk, I was talking. What I'm saying is, I'm not for a fare either. But if the commissioners are saying that's how they're gonna raise the money, and you're looking at a way to get that, then sell tokens, that's all. And WRTA doesn't have to bring two people in to count the money, and they don't have to collect money each time.
That's
They
how
drop it.
other
And maybe your boss at Altium will provide the tokens for you, so you can get to work.
Systems in larger
Private
cities.
sector.
And ma'am, I'm not saying I'm for the token, please don't misunderstand me.
The fares are not gonna cover the cost.
Okay.
That's
We're
not
not,
the issue. I'm saying that
we're here
the
to talk about the larger issue, which is to make sure that we get the buses
Right.
up
Well,
and
the other
running.
problem-
If it does
I'm
come
sorry.
to be WRTA, they're not gonna have.
The other
fares.
problem we're talking about right now, we're talking about something that we can't even have, we have no control over.
Yeah.
This is a WRTA decision, if
Yeah.
they want to do fares or not.
That would be
As
up to
of
the
right
board.
now, they started it because of COVID. And as of right now, they've continued it. In another year, they could start it back up again.
Yeah,
That's their
that's up to
decision.
their board also.
Not up to us at this point.
And,
So why
and,
don't you talk about it?
so here's the other thing that I
I
wanna.
just wanna say one thing, Commissioner, I'm sorry.
No.
'Cause I think there's a narrative that's lost here, is that, I think there's an idea that the commissioners haven't been dedicated to transit. When you look at what the money that we generate, that we give to transit,
Well,
We haven't
600,000,
Can
let
I-
me just say, look, this
You
needs to
haven't
be out there. $600,000 in senior levy funds that we dedicate, that don't go to other senior services, that go directly to transportation. The matching money for $5310 that we contribute,
not-
the Board of Commissioners contribute,
Can
go
I-
to transportation. This match money, this $300,000 that we all agree on will go towards the buses, is committed from the county commissioners.
No, actually, that's a senior levy, and that has been going on for a
How
while.
does the senior levy get on the,
Are you talking
ballot?
about,
How does the senior levy get on the
Okay.
ballot?
I understand,
Who
but
decides the
that's
senior levy
part of,
funding?
that's part of
The
the,
commissioners.
that's part of the recommendation.
Commissioners have failed.
It's part of the recommendation from the,
What, you think they're doing a good job?
Who, if for us, if this costs money to do this, who do you want us to take money from to put towards this? Because we don't have a magic pot of money or a money tree.
You knew.
You want us to
the fares-
remove
you knew
services
the
from
routes
someone
were to
else?
go. You knew the routes were to go, you did nothing.
Okay,
If
so,
I don't pay my
what
car
is the
payment,
option?
it gets repoed. The bus system for the county of Trumbull County got repoed because y'all didn't pay the bill.
No, it was a grant.
it was a grant.
It was a grant.
You did nothing. We're sitting here without services right now because you did nothing.
Because we had free
You
money
failed.
from the state, and the state's not giving us free
You
money.
failed the people of Trumbull County.
Okay.
for the record, what I did try to do was I did make an effort to join WRTA and was unsuccessful. I probably made motions on the agenda and from the floor at least 10 times.
Many
Because
times.
that's something that was originally intended when ODOT came in and kind of saved our behinds once they disbanded the transit board, and that was all worked through with ODOT, with FTA, and with the commissioners at the time, and that was known to be, the intent for Trumbull County to join and let the voters decide. That was always known, that that funding was temporary in order to give us an opportunity to join and see how it played out, fleshed out with the citizens here. Now,
We have an opportunity now.
and,
Come up with a
well, we had an
plan.
opportunity, and she's right, though, we had that one meeting that I called and then ended up being changed by Mike Salamone, and at that point in time, he was tasked with finding out alternatives, and that was 2 years ago now. So it's just kicking the can until it's emergency, and I understand the public's frustration, but I've done everything that I could do. And then there's another, suggestion that that we've talked about before, actually, he talked about it, and never went forward with it. Now, if you're looking at the map of Trumbull County, and you have and you have contiguous areas to WRTA, to a WRTA covered area, which would be a township, or, you know, something to Mahoning County, and that would be a township. You could use Liberty, Girard, Niles, Warren, Fordstown. If we can get a contiguous area, then they would be able to join, and then providing their trustees and their city councils would approve that, and then they would be able to put it on the ballot as joining, as long as it's contiguous.
Correct.
Now, that's something that we've talked about before, but nothing ever came
Well,
through
actually-
as it relates to that.
Actually, again, Dean Harris is not here, but Dean Harris has talked to Mayor Franklin about it. I do know that.
Okay.
I don't know where the conversations have gone.
So,
Oh, now we're going off on another
no,
subject
well, I
here.
wanna talk about that, because it's important.
May I?
And if we were to do this contiguous,
Okay.
if we were to do a
May I,
contiguous,
please?
not yet, I mean,
Okay.
do you,
You
okay,
got, hello, everybody.
I'm not finished.
Oh, okay.
So if we were to do a contiguous area, and they were, and it passed, and all of those communities that have been asking the commissioners to join, those cities, the village of Lordstown, they have wanted us to join because of their citizens. So if they were to do it, and then it were to go on the ballot, and they were to, those people in those communities were to accept it and pass it, then they would be able to have routes in consideration of them with representation on their board. But if you think about that, and they were to do that, the majority of where spending takes place is in those areas. So they would be highly funded for a small area, when if it were countywide, it would already be covered.
Okay. Can I talk now?
There.
Hi, I have listened to everybody. My name is Tara. I'm a taxpayer. Hello, Commissioner Malloy, Commissioner Canatomos, and Commissioner Frenchco. Thank you for letting me speak. I have not interrupted. I listened to everybody. I actually totally agree with you, Commissioner Frenchco, but in a different way. The whole area you said is aimed at minorities, homeless people, people that work at low-paying jobs that don't make over, $20,000 a year, and people that, don't have transportation, their car breaks down like mine did, or people that don't have driver's license. It's based in those minority neighborhoods. If I work in those neighborhoods, I'm from those places, I've been to those jobs, therefore, I'm speaking from experience. So, to charge those people to ride the bus ain't gonna happen, because we don't have any money.
I can say,
Second,
I don't know what you're talking about.
when they were
Let her
talking
finish her
about
point.
bringing the,
Let her finish her point.
when they were talking about bringing the money back, they're gonna lose people. That's why they kept it free. COVID was the reason, but they kept it because those are the people that ride the bus. Mr. Malloy is not gonna ride the bus. She's not gonna ride the bus. I'm gonna ride the bus. Second,
Are you talking about how it's funded?
no, I'm
She's talking
talking
about
about
if
the
there were
area.
fair. She's talking about-
Okay,
The
that has
second part
nothing
was
to do
about
with that.
being
That was
unfair,
about-
but you guys already talked about it, so I just thought I would talk about it also. In her defense about, talking about the fair, and that area which you said, they already have that area. So when you work at the nursing homes, we already know the buses come out there. You have the businesses out there. You have Belmont Confessions. The bus goes out there. So WRTA, I don't know what kind of deal they have with those people, but I know there's a deal, because I've worked at those places, and the bus comes right at Giant Eagle, picks them up, comes at different times. The nursing homes, they come to those nursing homes. They go to, Lordstown out there at Ultium Cell. They go to, all these little plants, Valorec. Well, I know that's Mahoning County, but all the other places they go. So maybe if you set up something with a businessman, there's a gentleman here, he has the business, he's here, you could get a Uber system with him or a contract with him, instead of giving the whole $7 million to WRTA. Plus you have just in time. You have, well, how much ever money it is, just a number. You have just in time, you have people ready, you have all these different agencies and businesses that would love to get a piece of the pie and set something up.
Sure, a lot of people would love to rip off the public tax money.
But how are they ripping off the tax money when they're actually having jobs, creating jobs, and those people pay taxes? those people in the nursing homes and at those factories, they pay taxes. And when I worked at Lordstown, I was getting Lordstown tax and a couple other taxes out of my paycheck. You're paying taxes.
We need public transportation. You were not able to access
You can
funding.
still have public transportation. They just said that they're gonna keep those two lines, the Warren and the Elm.
You're unable to access funding, any
Thank
federal funding unless it's qualified with those things that, there are restrictions and caveats associated with using federal funding. And every provider would have to go through so many hoops. It would be impossible to do an Uber in Trumbull County and use federal funding, because it's just, there's procurement, there's drug and alcohol, all the policies that we're talking about. You can't do.
We don't have to have one system, we can have multiple systems,
Sure.
some public, some private.
Well, I don't think that WRTA, out of the kindness of their heart, is going to those neighborhoods, by those nursing homes, by those jobs, just because people need to get there. They're going by there because people work there, and because I don't know what deal they have, but they're not just riding past there just to take people back and forth to work. If that's the case, well, I have a job that I need, they need to come and get me, take me where I wanna go to work at.
Okay.
If we go back on the,
If we
Yeah, we
had,
gotta get back on.
if we had countywide transportation, you would be able to do that, either via the bus or an on-demand, because that's what the countywide would provide. If we were fully a member of WRTA and Trumbull County was included, then they would be able to have more of the money, and then it doesn't matter where you live in Trumbull County, if your car broke down somewhere and you lived in a township, some up north, you'd still be able to call and have transportation. So that's a misconception too, is that, WRTA is only going to be buses that service these, urban areas, when in reality, there are some zones that were going to be included in the plan. There's a paratransit area along the routes, and then countywide, there would be on-demand. I mean, we could use it for a boat on Mosquito Lake if we wanted to. I mean, you can seriously use it for any type of transportation that you're interested in using it for, the infrastructure as it relates to, I mean, of course, Mosquito Lake wasn't included on Gene Harris's plan, Denny wasn't here yet. But at the same time, you have the ability to look at all modes of transportation.
And we could do that,
Yeah.
getting back to the next agenda item, if we were our own 5307 designee,
Correct.
we could do that on our own without
Correct.
joining WRTA.
yeah, well, I wanna do a little more history here, since we going off track here. Cause you weren't here, okay? You asked a question about where did that 5307 money go when it went back to WRTA? For approximately 1 year, I worked with WRTA with the 5307 money, and I had, contracted with Comfort Caravan, Garwin, USA, I believe it was, to do general public, disabled, and we had a separate contract at that time for the general public. Then Diane had her senior levy, we had two separate contracts. And then you had Trumbull County Board of DD out here with a third contract, okay? So that's where the 5307
So
money.
it is possible.
So,
to do
right, so what I ended up doing a couple of years ago, I brought all this together. I brought Trumbull County Transit, I didn't bring the general public in because we don't have the general public money, but I brought in, senior levy, and I brought Trumbull County Board of DD, and now we still have these contractors. So to answer that, your original question, the 5307, we were using it at one point. And, I was actually paying the bills and working with WRTA at that time.
But where is it now?
It faded away because,
Warren gave up the designation.
well, no, it wasn't Warren giving, this was after Warren gave up the designation. Because
Oh, that was through WRTA.
this is the WRTA. They decided they wanted to use this money for capital and other things, and that's
So
what
WRTA got it and didn't provide services to it.
Right, so that's what, I mean, that was,
We're not
no,
doing it.
that's what that's when they went out and got the, fixed routes. In other words, what happened was, we were working with WRTA, with 5007, to do what we did. Then Dean Harris wrote the,
OTP.
thank you, grant, to do the fixed routes. So we went from we went from, what I had here to Gene doing what he had with the fixed routes, and on top of that, then we had the 5310 money at that point too. So that, I mean, that's kind of the history.
WRTA did do
Yeah, they were doing some door-to-door for a while too, but they finally got,
as a part of that.
yeah,
They didn't all just go to fixed route.
right. So anyways, I just wanted to get you up to speed here, that's all. So anyways, let's go.
Operated with about a $2.3 to $2.4 million budget towards the end of their existence. We did give on-demand transportation, we did give door-to-door. Everybody, the public, disabled, veterans, seniors, everybody had a ride, and they were paying anywhere from $1.50 in the participating community per one-way ride, up to like $4 for a ride. So that was then, and people were getting rides, and we didn't have WRTA. All those things could be happening. We just gotta look at a plan. What do people want? What do people need? And nobody is gonna get exactly what they want.
Okay.
Nobody.
So
And I do wanna say that though Carl said that, that's not exactly what was happening. Ostensibly, they were giving everyone rides, but what was happening was a little shenanigans. You'd call for a ride, they'd say call back on Monday. They were only providing 16 to 20-something thousand. We got on them and we're like, hey, you can't just deny rides and collect all this cash. The name of the game that was going on was provide few rides and then increase your profit margin, and the public was done with it, and the people on the boards and the officials, and we were like, no more.
2017, excuse me, Nikki, 2017, the contractor at the time decided to hold, the public hostage and started putting people on a waiting list.
Yep.
He demanded that he wanted more money. He ended up getting another 175 or 200,000 and gave way less rides. He had about 60,000 rides in 2016. 2017, I think he plummeted to 30,000 rides or something.
Okay.
And made extra money.
So,
So the problem was the contractor was not working with it. And I hold right now and 2 out of 3 of you guys weren't there, and Maura wasn't there when it first started happening. So the complacency, and I did a lot of reading the last couple of days about this whole thing. Nobody wanted to go ahead and take the bull by the horns. They sat there and were very complacent. They sat there and just kicked the can down the road. We had it, we didn't have it, we never come up with a plan. Right now, it can be done if we, the public, we, Trumbull County, work together. But you guys are the policy makers, are gonna have to, with the help of, your transit administrator, devise a plan, use the ODOT resource, use the FTA resources. And I found out one thing, with Ms. Nicole Neal, that used to be the, Region 5, director. Told me in several meetings, but meetings that my board did not, they always wanted to hire or spend money on another study. He reached out, I made a motion, reached out to the FTA, had a meeting. Matter of fact, Mr. Salamone with Mr. Faulkner was the chair of the board with our legal counsel, and matter of fact, Debbie was at that meeting, and found out that the FTA is there to help us. We need to use them as resources. We need to use Chuck Dyer and the ODOT people as a resource, but we have to make the plan. The plan has to come from you guys.
And they're not gonna do it for.
They're not gonna do it.
They're not gonna do it.
I know that.
They're not gonna help, Eastgate's not gonna help, I mean,
Well, that's
they'll
where
get,
I'm the one that has to,
Yes.
right, we. So let me go on about the 5307 designee. So the question is, do the commissioners want to have Trumbull County become a 5307 designee? It's a possibility, and I'm just saying it's possible. Here's what we have to do. You have to get everybody to concur. Now, when I'm saying everybody, we're talking WRTA, Eastgate Board, City of Warren. Now, and when I'm talking about the Eastgate Board, it's everybody on the board, because what we have to do is, as Carl started, first thing we gotta do is put a plan together. You gotta take that plan up to Eastgate. They have to put a resolution on that we wanna join. You gotta have everybody on that board, so in other words, if there's people on the Eastgate Board, which we know, City of Warren, all over the place, they have to be on board with this,
All of them have to agree that Trumbull County.
or at
is
least the
going-
majority.
Yeah, the majority will have to agree that Trumbull County is able to run transit.
Right.
And you're looking at communities that live the fiasco,
So,
okay?
That's
And
a
then-
different time.
right,
And
That's a different
time.
transit board, that's a different
So-
provider.
Again,
In the
It's
plan,
the same.
all of these people would have, the majority of them will have to agree that
Right.
Trumbull County is capable of doing that. You have to have a plan that is approved and that
Okay.
jives with what the intention of the state is. You have to have, they are concerned about management capabilities and fiscal restraint.
right.
Those are the main reasons
So-
why, those are the main reasons.
Well, there's one more main reason, there's one
Okay.
more big one, which you already stated.
Mhm.
In this plan, we have to have a designated funding source.
Yes, oh yeah, well, that's the fiscal,
That's part of the fiscal, well,
Yeah.
that's just part of the fiscal, but, hey, you gotta have a designated funding source. We have to say what type of transit we want. I mean, you can always change the I mean, if you wanna go to fixed route, whatever, you can do, but I mean, we have to have a basic plan in place. Take this to Eastgate, they put it on, it goes to the TAC group first, and then from the TAC goes to their board, so it's gotta pass two. Once it does, then we have to write a letter to the governor. And, and then the governor has to approve it too. So this is not just here's a letter, can we do this?
It's not as simple. I know that there is talk about, oh, it could be done by March or
Right, no,
whatever.
this is gonna
This
take
is
probably
gonna
a
take-
year.
Yeah, it will take extremely long time, and to get those other communities to buy the fact that Trumbull County is now new and improved and will be able to provide services better than WRTA, which a lot of them are holding out for, is going to be a difficult task, especially after, like I said, living the fiasco.
Right.
We had a fiasco this weekend with WRTA. What happened, Terry? You had a personal experience this week.
Okay,
Tara, taxpayer, Saturday, trying to catch the bus to run some errands and do some things. Me, a lot of people that were on walkers, wheelchairs, a lot of people had got dropped, we were standing there waiting, no one came. Some people did get a ride, they waited 3 hours. Some people that live here in Warren had to walk from Youngstown to here. Some people had to stay, some people had to get an Uber,
what was that?
people were
Janet?
stranded.
I can tell you why that happened. because
Yes,
I
ma'am.
go to the
I know why.
WRTA board.
I know why, I talked to
It's
the,
basically a contractual issue.
I talked to the bus driver,
Yes,
and she
there are
said,
contract
yes, ma'am.
negotiations,
In
and there's a
fact-
thing
Not to cut you off, I'm
about
apologize.
Saturday drive.
So WRTA
Yes,
just left the
Yeah.
clients flat.
They had no
Yeah,
drive.
they had no choice
They had no
because,
drivers.
they haven't gotten a
In fact-
raise, they haven't gotten a raise,
Yeah.
and I work, and I don't blame them. It was their day off, and they was trying to get people to come in, and people were like, no, because of their contract, can't blame them.
So no
I just
system's
wish they
perfect.
would've told us.
Right.
Now, I've got a letter from a veteran in Gerard that got left at the bus station in Akron, who went to the VA, went to Akron to Cleveland, back to Akron, and no bus ever showed up from Youngstown to come get him. He slept overnight in a bus
Yeah.
stop.
Can I
So,
just say
there are
that
problems.
all of this demonstrates how bad we need transit. That's what that demonstrates, and it was a contractual issue.
Yes, ma'am.
involved.
Yes,
Well,
ma'am, it was.
contractual, and
Yeah.
I believe they're not gonna run any service this weekend.
I don't know, it's up in the air,
It's
that's
up-
why
well,
we're here at the
Last
meeting.
I heard, but
Yeah, it's up in the air.
last I heard yesterday,
When we were talking
unless
about
people sign.
connecting transit systems to
Yeah.
transit systems, another option that I can't remember what was in Dean's plan for us or not, is park and ride stations. So that's another thing where people say are going from Kent Trumbull to Kent Maine or to, connecting, systems to systems is also possible if we were to regionalize, or, you know, to be a designated recipient, 'cause that parking, they'll have a parking lot where you can go and then catch the bus to leave, so that everyone's riding together.
Yeah, they used to do that back in the 80s. I don't know
They
what
do that
happened.
in other communities
They do
up
all
north
over.
too, yeah, all
Yeah, they
over,
do.
and all over the country, yeah.
I've lived in
So I guess where we're at this point, if you don't mind me, is we got you commissioners have two decisions to make for me, okay? Number one, do you want me to continue talks and put something together for the fixed routes with WRTA and set up a meeting with Mayor Franklin to see if he's willing to put money in? Now, we have to have something together by.
Really quickly.
Really
Yeah,
quickly.
I definitely want you to do that.
I second that.
Okay, that's fine, I will do that. Number two, do we want to pursue the 5307? And again, I will be glad to be working on that, and I will work with Eastgate to make sure we have all our ducks in a row.
Yes.
We do
I'd
that,
say yes, we can control our own destiny that way.
okay,
And like you said, it opens us up to so many more funding options
right.
where we don't have to rely on joining another system in another county.
As a
We're the
voter
little
and a
fish.
taxpayer, I oppose that.
Well,
Why?
I oppose it. You failed to run a functioning transportation system up until now. Why would the public have confidence in the commissioners to run a transportation when you've never been able to do it in the past?
So what do you recommend?
Well,
Join
can I,
the RTA.
hang on, no, hang
What about
on.
if that fails
Can
on the ballot?
Can I say something
Then
here?
try it and see. The thing is you keep on saying it's going to fail on the ballot. Let's try it and see.
I don't
Can
wanna
I-
put that
Well,
to the
no.
voters
Wait a
right now,
second.
they're paying enough for goods and services as it is.
And you know what? Let's bring this up. There is going to be a shortage in our senior levy funds. When I was on senior
There's no
levy,
shortage.
hang on, when I was on senior levy before I got elected, and the first year, within the first 6 months that I was here, Diane came and said that we're looking at an increase to provide rides for the senior citizens. Now, we know that that's gonna come up, because the cost of rides and the increase in the aging population, we're going to be in a position where she's going to wanna she's gonna tell you guys, hey, we need to put in an increase on our property
That's up
tax.
to us if we wanna do
Okay.
I'd rather
An
do that
increase-
than sales tax on everybody,
An increase in
even the poor
property
people.
taxes?
Yeah,
Well, wait a
it. For our
second.
seniors,
Increase
seniors, yeah.
on
Seniors?
property taxes?
Mhm.
For senior rides only,
not for senior rides, for senior services.
yes, but the reason for the need for the increase is for senior.
It's for all of it, there's waiting lists on everything.
Wait, is because of the transportation costs increasing. Should we
That's not
join,
true.
should we join WRTA?
That's not true, Commissioner.
Okay, stop.
There's a waiting list on all these services.
Joining WRTA would, and this is what we said back when I was on senior levy and for Diane and everyone else, they would be able to pick up some of that gap that is associated with because WRTA would be providing
Here's the other problem, the seniors in this county
Please
have
stop talking over me.
Please.
No,
I can't hear
really.
these five, because
It's
the
not a-
seniors in this county
You know,
are used to our
No.
system. What
No.
WRTA doesn't do well is
No.
paratransit, okay?
No.
We wanna have them do the fixed routes, but they are used to a door-to-door system that we've provided. You wanna change that for our seniors.
what I
I don't
want to
agree with
do is we could pick up the gap with WRTA, then that would prevent the depletion of senior levy funds for the purpose of them not wanting to put a property tax on the ballot.
Not even the
Again,
same services.
This
Not even the
is
same.
why we don't put our
Apples
eggs
and
in one
oranges.
basket. It's
How
not
many
a
hundreds of
one-size
thousands
fits
are
all for
coming in?
everybody. Our seniors are used to a certain system, a system that caters to them. You wanna take it away from them.
That's not what I said.
Yeah, you do. You wanna hand it over to WRTA, and they don't do that as well.
No, that's not what I said at all, but you can keep on the more you repeat it, isn't gonna make it any more true.
The more you repeat it, it's gonna make it true.
The reality is they would be able to provide some of those
What do you,
services,
no,
yeah.
give me some specifics. You're saying service, what service specifically could they provide that we're not providing now?
I didn't say that what I'm
I'm
saying
giving-
is, if they were providing it, it would
What
free up money.
specific,
What- yeah, what
specific
service?
serv-
Provide
service?
what?
What specific service?
The door-to-door transportation
No.
services, or the
No.
They want-
paratransit.
Here's the problem.
And
Here's
so
the
many,
problem.
like him,
No,
this man right here was using WRTA just fine, and then now
Using the
he's
fixed route,
using,
correct.
but where did he,
Now
let me
yeah,
ask you this.
exactly.
When
But
you,
not the paratransit.
did they pick you up at the apartment complex?
No, I had to go from
Thank you.
the Elm, out the Elm Road
To the bus stop.
Thank you.
bus.
We go and come,
Now,
Dave, I'm sorry,
we-
I mean,
But they could use
They
it any
go-
time of day,
they
they
go-
have more liberty.
they come right to your door.
Right.
Okay.
Comfort Caravan comes right to your door, picks you up,
that's the difference.
takes you to work,
The
picks you up from
other
work,
problem
takes you
is-
home, and
I
drops you
understand.
off right at your front door.
It's not a catch-all.
Right, the other
WRTA
problem,
It will help
do
alleviate
that.
the other problem is,
Because some people would be able to use fixed routes and other things,
correct.
and it would free it up, then they.
Oh, I'm not
Sure.
disagreeing with the
Just
fixed route
because you're a senior
system.
citizen doesn't mean that you're completely disabled, and you would be able to then use a bus as opposed to.
But
I'm
then
not
they only
disagreeing
have
with the
two,
fixed
they
route
only have
system
two
either.
places for him to sit, where it's more convenient for him to take what he's already taking.
Right.
Yeah.
I think you have to, and Mike, I think you have to consider, you're saying, let's do this, let's give WRTA. I've worked with Dean. They don't want to do
No,
those
they can't.
services.
They can't.
They're not
In
even
fact-
picking people up this weekend.
In fact, twice,
Probably not.
last year, the year before, he subcontracted it to me because he didn't want to do it. So I think you're talking about something that they wouldn't have an interest in
Well,
anyway.
the other
sounds
part of
good,
it
but
is,
it's not
is
true.
the contractual.
Huh?
It's their union.
Yeah.
They have a union there,
Right.
and their union says, here's what we're gonna do. And that's where they stay. They will not go into somebody's driveway. We do.
Right.
And
We'll go through the door. into
We'll go
the
through the
house.
door, correct, into the house.
And
They won't.
take that away from the
No,
seniors
I didn't
would
say
be
that.
tragic.
Why would you have to take it away?
Yeah, he's just talking for
understand.
Oh, if you're joining WRTA for $7 million, what, so you got $7 million plus the transportation system?
You wouldn't need as much.
Right,
probably.
you wouldn't.
That's what they use, that's what they utilize.
I understand that, but you could have seniors, you could have people who are using.
So we're gonna pay $7 million for a system that doesn't include everything.
Yeah.
That sounds like our
because they
bad
don't-
deal.
Yeah, 'cause they don't do, in Mahoney County,
Why not contract and do what they do best with the fixed routes and leave the paratransit and the door-to-door service to others?
what, yeah, fine,
That's what I'm trying to say.
yeah, but you have no ability to fund the other.
We're funding it right now.
The volume that get transported on fixed routes,
Mhm.
I think that it gets lost. If you're saying that WRTA doesn't do very much door-to-door, they're transporting 1.5 million rides.
I didn't say that.
That's a lot of
I
fixed
didn't say
route
that.
rides.
I said our seniors are used to certain
Right, and that's
rides,
not
and
a
they will
problem.
be in an uproar and
They need to ride
rightfully
a
so
bus.
if we take that
There's
away.
no reason to take it away.
Y'all need to ride the bus.
See, that's a big
In
chunk of the
Mahoney-
ride.
No, you need to
in
ride the bus.
Mahoney County,
You need to ride the bus.
not everybody that
She's
gets
wrong.
door-to-door
Look on the
uses
top.
WRTA. That's just a fact.
Don't touch it.
Here's what I wanna do, I wanna use the best of both systems. I wanna use WRTA for the fixed routes, and I wanna
It
use
just goes,
bus for the
I see this is a mess of information.
Okay,
Huh?
so there's
It said this is a
nothing
myth
that says out of
on the
that
Nile
7
City.
million,
Yeah.
you couldn't do
Yes.
some of that.
Not some big
For-
buses, they're
Yeah,
not gonna do
you have to
it.
join WRTA.
And it's out of our hands.
That's what Murdoch said.
Then we're
No,
owned by another
Goes
board,
up, they can't, doesn't stay on.
part of a board, like we could be outvoted.
Yeah.
We control our
The
destiny
express.
if it's our own money and our own board.
Wait,
WRTA is not
you're
the big
saying
buses.
that people who have gone and
Yeah.
gotten
I
grants
didn't see
and
any
managed
small WRTA.
rides in this county
Yeah.
would be, they've created no goodwill with
Okay.
you. You don't trust them, even though right now.
Not to take care of our rural citizens in the northern part of the county, that's gonna be, gonna be the least of their concerns.
Someone able-bodied.
That's what I'm saying. They're in the job of transporting money, and you're saying they have no interest in transporting people? They transport people in New Middletown, in Mahoney County right now. There's, I don't quite understand why all these thousands and thousands, right now, up to now, Warren Express this year has provided 140,000 rides. Most of that in Trumbull County this year.
Yeah, that's not going
For some
anywhere.
reason, yeah, but for some reason, that's provided no good faith. I'm just amazed that that doesn't exist, because WRTA, they use a lot of federal funds, they use Mahoney County. They have an obligation to do this stuff legally. They're not being cited for things that they're not transporting. I just don't understand lack of goodwill. They have open board meetings, I go all the time. I just don't understand why there's such this animosity that you think they're not gonna do anything.
It's not, it's because of special interest, and at the very beginning, when I started, and I was on senior levy, and you were there, you originally supported joining WRTA.
Yes, I
And
did.
you recommended it regularly.
That's when you liked Mike.
Up until the point where the other commissioners told,
No.
okay.
What it was, and I'll be honest, here's what it is. It's two things. And we talked about this in our meeting. There's two things with joining WRTA. Number one, we, as commissioners, you've got to put a 0.25% sales tax on there. Number two, the vote is not just Trumbull County, it's Mahoney County. It's well, let me finish, please. So, that means if Mahoney County says yes, and we say no, it goes on. If Mahoney County says no, and we say yes. So I'm just saying, that's the other part of it.
Dean is able to address that. I talked to him yesterday about that as well. I mean,
Okay.
they can, within their board or something. That was something that he brought
I
up.
still don't understand how he could talk to everybody in the world,
But he hasn't
one-on-one,
talked
but he
to you.
hasn't talked to me, he's in Florida on the day we have the meeting. But he could talk to you
He
yesterday.
said that he reached out to you and you never called him back.
You talk to me?
He talks to everyone, but you just gotta call him back, Denny.
Okay.
So what did he say yesterday, though, about the board?
Well, just talk to him about it, because
Okay.
we were talking about maybe the contiguous areas.
Right, he's talking about the continuous,
Well, we were
which I
talking
knew
about
that. That's something separate.
But he talked about the vote and how they could, there was the same
These are
concern
legal
that we're saying, so.
These aren't Dean
And
questions.
you're saying you're gonna raise the sales tax just in that corridor?
Seriously.
So people in Niles are gonna pay a sales tax,
Right,
but people in Weathersfield may not, or people in,
Basically, everyone who shops, hello, it's not just the people who live there, because you probably shop in Niles too.
somewhat?
It'd be everyone in Trumbull County shops, so then, and.
The sales tax is higher now, I'm not gonna shop at Niles, if I go right next door for cheaper.
So if you were going, so if these contiguous areas were to join, then they would have an extremely well-funded system and only be paying for services in the little areas where that's where the bulk of the revenue would be coming from, and it would be better to have services and extend it to everyone in Trumbull County. You get it,
Yeah.
Dean got it, yeah.
Yeah, because right now, if I went door to door and I'm not a senior and I live in Vernon Township and my car breaks and I need a door to door, what are you gonna do? You got nothing.
Exactly.
The assumption is,
That's not true, though, is it?
in Trumbull
Yes, it is true.
County,
Can't you do anywhere else? Mahoney's not doing that.
in Trumbull County,
Yeah,
it
what
would
about,
be designed exactly
I
like
mean,
Mahoney
this is
County.
not a
You
perfect
probably have
world.
fewer fixed routes, but you'd
If
have
you
a
wanna-
lot.
Or unlimited
Send
dollars.
it to you,
You
if you wanna
can-
say that, go
you-
ahead.
You're right,
Up to
you
you.
would still have general public transportation on demand, countywide, in Trumbull County, if you were just a regular able-bodied person and your car broke down.
Correct.
That is something, to and from work, they would do that.
They do it every day. They do it every day.
And that's why there's a huge misconception as it relates to WRTA, that it's only the buses. And it's not. We have never experienced what full service is, to be able to say whether or not it would be used or not.
Mahoney County has full service, they don't do that.
no, Mahoney County, WRTA will do door-to-door for handicapped and disabled.
Right.
They're not gonna do it if your car breaks
Yes,
down.
they do.
No, they don't.
They'll do it for me.
If you're 3/4 of a mile
If you're,
from a fixed route.
but if you're in.
But they're gonna
Vernon
move your
Three-quarters
route,
mile,
yeah.
fixed route, that doesn't help anybody in northern part of the county.
Yeah.
In what?
It wouldn't help anybody in northern part of the county.
Besides that, you can't just call them and do
No,
it.
if you're less, if you're more than, that would benefit.
That's
every
the paratransit area.
more than.
No,
It's a 48-hour,
yeah,
they can't, if your car, please,
Yeah,
No, right.
please, 1 second. If your car breaks down,
yes.
you're saying you can call them, they'll come and get you.
Yes.
No, it has to be, according to Salamone and according to everybody else, it's 48
I
hours
think, I
minimum.
think theirs is
No,
24.
24 hours.
Theirs is 24.
24, so you gotta sit in your
Yeah.
car, okay.
Sure, and they.
And you
but-
have to be
but we
within
would have-
three-quarter, hang on.
You have to
And you
be.
have to be within three-quarter of a mile.
There you go.
No, you
No,
don't.
you have to be in a specific spot.
I'm sorry, outside of 3/4.
There's, no, you're
That would
talking
be
two
in
different things.
everything.
here.
Right.
Okay, I
Right,
apologize.
you're talking
Hang
two
on,
different
let
things.
him,
You're talking ADA complimentary paratransit
the one.
which by law, you have to run with fixed route. And that's the one that's 3/4 of a mile.
Yeah.
Then you have also countywide
On the,
transportation, which is what they have.
yeah,
They're two different,
Yeah, they have 3 different modes of
Right, they have multiple
transportation
different
in
roads.
WRTA.
but the thing is, they only have so many vehicles to run this. And once they're full, like anything else, they're full. And again, it's 24 hours.
Yeah.
But there's, like you said, there's three, I can't,
They have 3 types of rides that they provide.
right.
If you're more than 3/4 from a fixed route, you have a right, if you're 40 years old, your car breaks down,
Yeah.
and you're more than 3/4 of a mile from
Don't
a
you have
fixed
to
route,
register with
you can
them
call
before
to
they'll
get
get
a
you?
ride.
that's on
And
the
what-
ground.
But if you
I know
don't-
you do
if
for
you don't
disabled.
break down and you need a
That's
ride
the-
back and forth to work, will they?
Yeah, it takes
Yeah.
a couple weeks. to
Yeah.
write.
Oh, sure, yeah.
Well,
As
here's
long as
the- and
you're
here's the other-
outside of that distance, yeah.
The other thing
Outside the
that we're
paratransit area,
missing
it's on
here,
demand all over.
the other thing that we're missing here is this. With the ADA, you have to register. It can take up to 21 days to register with their ADA.
With the ADA.
ADA,
Yeah, for the ADA.
yeah, but not for,
For the other one, it will take a few days, but the ADA, which is what, takes 21 days. For us, the system I have is once I get an application, I get it in the system within 24 to 48 hours, you're approved.
Don't you think it's weird that you personally get to decide who gets a ride and who doesn't?
It's not that I personally decide. I have,
Limited funding.
I have things I have to look at on the application. On the application, for the senior, if your birthday, if you're over 60, you're automatically approved. Okay? For the disabled, a doctor has to fill out the back page. If a doctor fills out a certain parts of the area and says you are disabled, you're approved.
But in Mahoning County, we have a system where they have on-demand for everyone, and we don't have to.
we don't have that here.
Right, we don't have that here.
That's for general public.
That's the general
That's
public.
the one that we're talking about.
So why don't we join WRTA so we can have that service?
Because the commissioners have to decide to join and then I know Mara's so convinced that it will fail. I'd like
I
to
just
see,
don't wanna put a
I'd like to
tax
find
to the
out.
people right now.
I just wanna find out.
I'm sorry.
I'm not interested
Levy's
in.
coming up, everything's
The
coming up.
levies,
We need to
yeah,
stay
levies
within our
are
means
too
and try to
high.
get these routes that we have,
Right.
funded, with
Property-
the means that we have and not asking for more money from the people.
It's
that's
not
what I-
us
that's what
doing
I-
it though, it's up to the people. Here's the
I'm
thing.
sorry, it is us doing it.
It's the
It's us
people
putting
in
it on the
Trumbull
ballot.
County have seen the epic failure, and I think that they have to, that they should have the right to decide whether or not they want us to regionalize, because we would be missing out on
I respectfully
opportunities.
disagree with you.
We're, even still, we would be missing out on some opportunities because the intent and the efforts of the state and federal government are towards regionalizing. So, I
You
just,
can regionalize without joining WRTA. And that's what we've
that's
discussed
not,
with the
that's actually
5307
not
designation.
regionalizing. Our UZA.
Actually, it is.
Our
Well-
UCA is Trumbull and Mahoning. So it would appear that, and in other communities, other places that do follow that's developed by the federal government, because their intention is to have us part of a regional transit area. So they go through federal government and identifies areas and where there's, transportation to and from, and that's why they put us together. We're the Mahoning Valley. We're a UZA.
We could
We
be our
should
own
be
RTA.
Okay.
No, that was my next.
You're all in favor of this regionalization thing, but the other day, you just went against the Port Authority and Chamber of Commerce, which is regionalizing
And going
economic development.
back
So
to
Those
the,
okay in one,
Yeah.
regional,
That's,
it's
they already
not the other.
so, going back to this plan, this 5007,
They already
that's
are
one of the things, you know,
Okay.
how does the commissioners want to run the service? Do you want to do the county, as the commissioners run it themselves, county board, or an RTA? That's, I mean, this is down the road that we're talking, so.
I think we need to move toward the
Well, we-
direction of 5307.
Right, that's,
I agree.
no, I know,
I
so
do
that's what I'm
not.
gonna,
I do not. I don't have faith that Trumbull County would be able to administer as
Well, you're
good
one of the
as
administrators.
Right.
Yeah, and I'm not even able to
That's
sometimes get
Truest thing
a
you
clerk,
said then.
to give me, sometimes, we've seen the things
You
here.
don't have faith in yourself as an administrator.
I don't think the people of Trumbull County have faith in the commissioners.
No one,
but again,
no one has faith in their capacity to administer transportation, and
You're paying an administrator to run transit.
and if you don't ask, you don't.
right, and it's been years that we've known that this grant was going to be expiring, and there was also a directive for our administrator to come up with an alternate planning before it expired.
You know what,
It was a
Commissioner?
one page.
No.
Can you see the plan? It
I don't
was-
have the plan with me,
It was
however,
one
you
page.
sent it to ODOT yesterday. You sent it to Chuck Dyer, because he sent it to me.
A while ago, yeah.
You know, he
That's
sent
not
it
a
to me.
plan, that's not
That was a 3-year plan that we talked about, and it was a 3-year plan I put together, not a 2-year.
That's not an actual plan, that's
Yes,
like
it
trying to
was.
figure out, that does not suffice for
No,
a transit plan. Do you know the difference?
Commissioner, it was a plan. The plan was after 2 years, I go to the commissioners with good numbers, because we never had the good numbers.
The
I
plan
come
was
to the
to
commi-
kick the can,
No, it wasn't. It was come to the commissioners after 2 years.
after it's gone, after transportation.
Are you done talking now?
After transportation is over, then you come to the
It's
commissioners.
ridiculous.
None of that
Can't
makes
have a
sense.
conversation.
That's
have a
why no one
conversation.
trusts the commissioners.
The plan was to go for 3 years. I sent that plan to ODOT, they knew that too, okay? And it was to go to the commissioners in 2024, in end of 2020 to 2024, when they had 2 years worth of good numbers. Diane and I would have 2 years of good numbers. Right now, we have 1.5 years. We wanted to have 2 years of solid numbers. That's why it was a 3-year plan. We come with good numbers, and then we move on from here.
Do we join WRTA? Do we put a sales tax on our own?
Or what do we do?
You know,
Right.
there's a lot of
But
different
the way
That
you
was
would
the
wanna
option.
do it would involve.
But what
putting sales
happened
tax
was-
on as the commissioners, as opposed to
Not
by.
necessarily, we would look at the numbers.
Right.
Maybe Trumbull County can afford it out of its general fund.
Oh my
seems like we're
God,
getting
you
so
would
off
have,
track.
you would
Can
have
I-
all of the people in Trumbull County and the northern townships just out of the
This is a
general
public
fund,
meeting.
out of the general funds and pay for that?
Yes, sir, you have the
General
floor.
fund money is for us
Yeah,
to
this is the
spend.
public meeting.
We're not
Let-
going
let
to the
some of
people for more money.
Okay, and I'm gonna help you. Commissioner Malloy,
You're
Commissioner
still
Cantala
spending
Mesa.
Cantala Malloy.
Okay, and Commissioner, okay. Now, what we're looking at is, we all know that we need some type of transportation in the county, okay? Now, there are different options. If you take the WRTA program, we have to go through being on a ballot, getting approved, whatever. It's a $7 million program. Do we in Trumbull County need a $7 million program when Mahoning County, who, I was a little kid in Mahoning County and used that, it's a mature system. We don't have that here. Do we need $7 million? Now, the people who say, well, I don't want to pay a fee, a fare, whatever it is, I understand that. But where do you think the $7 million is going to come from if they put it on the ballot? It's a sales tax. So it's going to come out of your pocket every time you make a purchase.
About $30 a year for me.
I don't know what it is for
What
you,
about
but it
when you buy
doesn't matter
cars?
what it
What
is
about
for
when
you, Ms. Frenchco. It's what these people will be paying.
Well,
Okay, let me talk. This is a community meeting.
I understand you're an
community-
He has the floor.
Yes, and you're interested
Commissioner.
because of your contract.
You're
and your
ridiculous. My contract has nothing to do with it,
concern.
okay? I do, that's
It's
none
not
of your
your time to
business,
speak.
okay? It has nothing to do with my contract. You always bring things up like that when you disagree with someone, okay? That's not the point. The point is, so do we need $7 million? And do we need to tax the people who, through this county, for a $7 million program, when we don't have the need, in my mind, for their program? Now,
What is your
It is
program?
not your turn.
What is your program?
Can we go one at a time, please, and let him
you know,
finish?
you
Well,
keep
that's
talking.
relevant to what you
I
said.
own
wanna hear
Comfort
what you have to
Caravan,
say.
okay? Is that okay?
If you make
If you would
money
be quiet
off
and
of
let
the
him
taxpayer,
talk.
Would you be
Yeah, he
quiet?
gets free rides.
It's a service.
He gets free rides, don't
free,
talk to
that
him.
he doesn't get paid for, so you have a business.
Would you be quiet? I'm
No,
talking.
I'm the voter here.
I'm the voter here also, and I would like to
Please,
talk.
please, everyone, please.
So my point is, they've talked about working with WRTA. I have all the respect in the world for Dean Harris and WRTA. They do a phenomenal job in Mahoning County, and they do well here. But if we can, they don't? Okay, so, she's shaking her head. Okay, so if there's a way to do less routes, get them back into the fixed route service in Trumbull County, and not have to tax the taxpayers or charge a fare or whatever, then I think that's what we need to do. That's what we need to do. When we had
There's nothing
the,
viable being discussed
Nikki,
here.
please, okay? When we had the program with WRTA before, a couple of the routes were very busy and some were nothing, right?
Right.
So why don't we go and look at what was good, what we need to do, fund this thing without putting any more, I mean, we're all, correct me if I'm wrong, going to be looking at real estate increases, real estate taxes. Do we actually need to put an increase on sales tax right now? let's do
To
what we can
prevent
do.
property taxes, I think, yeah.
Huh?
This isn't gonna prevent any property taxing.
I mean, I think
senior
it's,
levy
I
is
think
kinda
we all agree, we're all here
That's
for
up to
the same reason.
Okay.
We need the
We'll wait for it.
transportation.
Just remember that
Okay, I'm
these are-
still talking,
Well, he
okay?
was talking too, and you didn't say
No,
anything.
no,
Be
no,
respectful.
that's not true. Okay, so,
No,
just,
no, he
please,
just- he
please
just
be quiet,
spoke.
sir,
He
please.
just spoke. If you're gonna, he just
You're
spoke.
yelling at me, he's
Well,
not.
then don't, he was talking
No,
as well.
Nick, you want
So
to
just-
What happens
one
with
time
every
settle
meeting
down?
that we're in.
No.
Settle down.
It all breaks down into
I'll
nothing.
Nicky anybody, it's your name.
No,
Okay.
no,
Totally agree.
no,
Yeah.
no.
And I'm
Get your
talking-
hand away from me.
My hand's not near
Then
you.
move, then go.
My hand's not near you.
Okay,
My
then put
hand
your
is in
hands
front-
down and
This is
talk.
what happened.
Put your hands
Lady,
down.
exactly what happened.
Mind or
Put your
what?
hands down and talk.
Yes,
Somebody's
sir.
gonna get-
Yes,
I
sir.
talk with my hands, I'm sorry, it's
And
a
then go
Jewish
over
thing.
there and not do it next to me.
Yeah, it's okay. Anyways, the point is, we all need transportation, but we don't need to throw out $7 million
No,
to
the
get.
point is that you
Oh,
want
my
as
God.
big
Oh,
a
my
piece
God.
of pie as you can get.
I have nothing to do with
This
this,
man
man.
is providing a service to the county.
route service, you don't know what you're talking about.
Yeah, you don't really.
You need to sit back there and let the people
Can I-
know what they're talking about, finish
You
it.
said a minute ago, you didn't know what he does, so you,
Thank you, sir.
I've been impressed with you.
I'll buy you a one-way ticket to wherever you wanna go, as long as
And we need it.
away.
It's a really respectful way
No,
to get
yes,
to the
sir.
Well, you're being
Absolutely.
disrespectful to everyone in the room,
Can I,
so.
can I say, let me say something regarding the budget, because we haven't even talked about the budget at this point. Presently, the present budget that we have, and I know Diane is on the phone or someplace,
Yeah.
but it's approximately 1.6 to 1.7 million. That's what we're running, that's with 53 ton, the money you're putting in, senior levy, okay, the whole pot, comes out to about 1.7 million, give or take. Now, granted, yes, we are not doing general public, and we're not doing anything with fixed routes. When we ran, and again, Carl can jump in here, but when we ran with community bus service, we were around a $2.3 million budget. Granted, it was a bigger system, and I understand that. We're presently doing about 37,000 trips. We did about 50,000 trips, okay? So we're a little less, doing a little less. Where I'm coming from with this is, we're probably looking, and I've said this time and time again, we're probably looking at about a $3 million system total,
Agreed.
per take.
Really?
That won't be
Capital too?
No, this would be contracting. We would be contracting now, so everything.
So
So
wouldn't,
it goes to private.
wait, no. So that would mean, so contracting is different than becoming your own designated,
No, you still could become a designated 5307, but you can contract everything out.
for the management. For the
It
management.
could be management and everything, yes. Everything. It could be everything,
And the,
yeah.
really,
would-
that's all, that cost sounds valid.
About a
Did
$3 million.
did you talk to anyone else about that?
I'm going by what our costs are right now.
Right.
1.6
Right.
million is what we're spending. We're not picking up general public. You add some general public in there,
And it's only
you add
that
about
much.
$1 million
Okay.
for WRTA, puts you to 2.6. Let's say you have 400,000 for the general public, you're up to 3 million.
A lot of rides.
We all agree that what we have now is not adequate.
Yeah, I agree with you.
This
We're
wouldn't
not-
be what we have now. He's not saying what we have.
here, real quick? Before, anything you say? Everything good though? No one's heard?
Not yet.
Not yet.
Stick around. Mike's talking about $3 million, and that's limited service. But yet you're saying just double that. We don't need that. How much it costs to run transit, I think for a system that provides to the public, I think people don't quite understand how much it costs.
Yeah.
And why it costs. And we, for 25 cents on $100, $100 on a $40,000 car is what it would cost for a sales tax. And I think that right now, Mahoney County's probably gonna collect $10 million of local money to go towards their system. You're
Can't
talking
put people
about 300 million less, and you think that for some reason that's not needed. You'd have fixed routes, what they have 30 of them there now, we wouldn't need 30 fixed routes, but we need a lot more of individual vehicles, which means individual drivers to do a wider area. It wouldn't be exactly the same, but I think that the idea that you don't need millions of dollars to run a transit system is delusional. It takes millions and millions of dollars, because you're talking about $3 million right there that Mike's talking about.
And the
And
general,
that's a very limited service.
Correct.
the general fund is not considered a designated funding, source.
Yes,
The ODOT FTA will not recognize the general fund as,
correct. And the general money is
nor is,
taxpayers'
actually, nor is
money.
property tax anymore.
I don't quite
Because there are some places that did
understand
that.
why you think it's not taxpayers' money and the 25 cents on $100.
And where I'm coming from is I'm saying, you start off with roughly a $3 million. If we find out we need it, then we increase the service. But you gotta start someplace.
Right.
And we've already started, and we've had very few complaints. We've had a couple, and we usually take care of them. We've had very few complaints.
Do you handle the
That's
phones?
not,
What's that?
I handle phones for disabled people. He's not wrong.
oh, we're not.
I get calls all the time.
General
I'm-
public, though. We've
Yeah,
been
no, I'm-
inundated with
The general public.
Inundated from who, Commissioner? I haven't
That are-
received
that are-
one phone call.
I haven't had one
Not
phone call.
one phone call regarding this.
Well,
Who are you inundated
I'm not
with?
saying we haven't had any complaints, but we've had a handful.
Where's your public records of who,
That is true.
where's your public records of where you're
Well,
inundated?
Yeah, you
All
also
I'm
said
saying-
you didn't get a call from Dean Harris, so.
One time.
You
You never called me
gotta
back.
start
February.
someplace. Sure. And I'm starting with a $3 million system is where I'm starting with. That's what
Instead
I'm
of starting
looking
with
at.
a $7 million.
Instead of a 7. If it needs to be increased, then it does. But you just don't jump into a larger system, and we still can run fixed routes with WRTA.
Exactly.
If we wanna do 3, we do 3. If we find out we wanna do 5, we can do 5. I mean, that's
It's a
also
testament
the
to this
difference.
board that we're
You have to
able to
have a
do that
designated-
financially,
No, hang on.
without going to the public.
But the other thing is, that's the difference there's a difference between joining WRTA and RTA's board and contracting. If we contract with
Right.
WRTA, we write out specifically what we want.
And that's what this meeting is supposed to be about, is what are the options we have without,
Right.
it just turned into a join, not join WRTA thing. We need to get back to the last couple agenda items and move on with
And
it.
we can't just assume that WRTA is going to wanna contract with Trumbull County to do exactly what we want, when they have all the,
So far, they're willing to.
Right now, you negotiate with them.
mhm.
That's what you do.
And if they say no, we didn't need them for the last 50 years.
I mean, if they
There's
say,
other routes.
if they say, we don't
There's
wanna
other
do an
means.
hour, we don't want
There's
this
not
route to
been
be an hour, we
anything.
want an hour and a
There's not
half,
been
and that's what it
anything
is.
for the last 50 years, Denny.
Right, and we had families that made it to GM in one car owner household.
And our
For
population.
40 years they went to GM and went back and
Our population has
forth.
also declined significantly.
Right, so we need less.
We had fixed routes,
So people move to places.
designated routes to Packard Electric,
You're an idiot.
and up there on Elm Road
He's an
existed
idiot.
when Trumbull County had their own thing. I know that because they went by my house every day. The illusion that this county wasn't built on public transit for the 70s is wrong.
And that's why it was,
The 70s
and that's why it was
They're
more
wrong.
populated, because there are
Correct.
population trends show that people migrate to where there is
Correct.
public transportation, not only individuals, but businesses
Yeah,
as
they're
well.
migrating to Marion County.
So that's one of the problems that we've had here in Trumbull County. It would address a lot of issues.
Yes, sir.
I'll say this real quick before we get the
And I need
rest
to
to,
get going, I can't.
agenda item
Can be dismissed.
here on the agenda. But I don't know if anybody has brought this up before, but in order to raise some money, okay, to bring the WRTA buses back, even 2 of them, or whatever.
That's what we intend
That's,
to.
that's what we started at the beginning of the
Okay.
meeting with.
Why don't we have some sort of like a fundraiser to raise money? You know, some sort of a fundraiser to raise the
Not a
money.
bad idea. Well, eventually, you know, what we need to do, and to your point, it's not a bad idea, because what we need to do when all this kicks off and we start unveiling what we need to have happen with these routes, is, you know, sponsorships. We can look at sponsorships for vehicles for different things.
Yeah, like
People
that,
can put their,
like to go to the different businesses and stuff, see if they wanna sponsor it and that.
They do that in RTAs all over the country.
Because I know a lot of the times, you know, a lot of the car dealerships,
even on our Trumbull Transit, not Trumbull Transit,
a lot of the
whatever,
car
you know,
dealerships and stuff
the
will
senior transit.
contribute money.
Yep.
Mr. Shark, you haven't said anything yet.
John Shook, Trumbull County resident. First, I don't understand how we're ever gonna know exactly what WRTA can or can't do and for what price until you get Dean Harris in this meeting. Next, I can tell you what I've heard in the community. There's not one person that I've heard in the community that wants to be burdened with a $7 million tax. And there's nobody in the community that wants Mahoning County voting on anything that Trumbull County has to spend. I'm telling you, I've been hearing this a lot. The other thing I've noticed that I've heard in these meetings numerous times is, no matter what deal is reached, you could do it today, WRTA cannot be back online today.
And who told us that?
It would take months and months.
Why is that?
So going on the news and telling people that WRTA can be back online today was a horrible thing to do, because that's not true at all.
To answer your first question though, regarding WRTA, I did sit down with Dean Harris yesterday. That's where I got my numbers from, that's where we came up with the 2 routes. I sat with him,
Dean was busy yesterday with everybody else.
and, that's where we came up with this price at this point. But you're absolutely right. We have to keep going back and forth between us and WRTA, say, okay, we wanna add a 3rd route, what's it gonna cost? If we wanna add a 4th route, what's it gonna cost?
Everybody
Because
agrees, nobody wants $7 million.
We have some dinner with them.
Because they're the ones that control that price, I agree 100%.
And you're never gonna get anybody in Trumbull County to agree that Mahoning should have any say in what we do, regardless of what it is.
Right.
That was
That's
the 2
our-
sticking points, and this is something that's bigger than Trumbull County. This is what I wanted to say in the beginning. The 2 sticking points for me for not joining WRTA were, number one, we don't control our own destiny. Mahoning County controls Trumbull County's destiny. You try telling a Trumbull County voter that that's the case, they will be livid.
Yeah.
Second, mandatory 0.25% to join. As Mike said, I think we need a $3 million system. Why do we have to give them $7 million? Why can't we do it in 0.1%? Why can't we tailor make it to us? We can't, as it currently stands now. Until those 2 things are changed, I don't agree with it.
Ma'am, I'd like to, do you have any input? You had some good stuff at the beginning, you sat patiently through this whole meeting, you're a user. What are your thoughts?
Well, we're gonna have to get together and, as an old cliche says, discussions on a normal, even keel level is better than shouting and hollering.
Amen.
But in order to have the funds there, you know, why not bring a fundraiser in? What could we do? There's a lot of people out there that want something to do, and the weather's gonna cooperate. Right now, the sun's shining. Yeah, get people out there. Now, I'm not gonna divulge my sources, but I heard that someone wanted to go, get this now, someone wanted to go to Sorrento's Pizzeria, Parkman Road Restaurant, and mow their grass to make a little bit of money on the side. But why not go out there? The leaves are coming down off the trees. Able-bodied people can get out there with leaf rakes to make a little bit of extra money on the side. Something that would help the community at large by people banding together and getting something done.
And that's another factor we're not even discussing is, if you talk to the bus services, whether it be WRTA, community bus services, school bus drivers, or any others, they can't keep drivers right now, and they can't hire enough
That's the other
drivers.
thing.
Because people don't wanna work driving buses right now.
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right, not just,
Garland,
the CDL drivers are very
back and
difficult
forth
to find.
to the store.
And sir, what's your business? And you sat here patiently also. Wanna hear some input from you.
My name's Lonnie McDonald, I own home health care.
Well, no, I have
And I'm
to,
listening to everything.
they're always raising the
And I'm in
rate.
agreement, I don't think nobody wants to spend $7 million.
Because the government,
You gotta spend the $3, make it make
but,
sense, and make it work for everybody.
and you know who I'm talking about. They run most of Trumbull
Now,
County.
you as a business owner, if you had a problem getting your people to and from work,
I'm driving every weekend.
Oh,
I
I
get
tell
the
you,
I don't wanna be bothered, but I gotta
then
do what I gotta do
Wiseman,
to make sure we meet the needs of our
L
clients.
Y M
there you go.
WISEMAN.
Hey, Mike, anything else on here?
Not on here, but.
So, two takeaways,
Yeah.
5307 designation, the two bus routes, minimum two bus routes will be
Right.
back in service March, hopefully, right?
Right,
Yeah,
as long as we get everything in place, yeah.
but then
And
I
that
go with,
5307
I
designation
go
will
with
be key in being
Garland
able to
whenever.
access
Okay, access
federal
on the-
funds.
And I think the
moving forward.
consensus for all of us, even with you, is we want service. We want service. We want service for people to be able to get to and from where they need to go. We all are in a consensus of, we would like to see free service.
No, I
But
have, and I have.
If that's not the route, we gotta do the best we can do with it to get people where they need to go, especially if they're gonna work.
Yeah.
Even if it means the employer kicking in a little bit or wherever we get employees. If I'm Altium, and I can have 10 good workers come here and it's gonna cost me $4 a day,
Bigger
I'm-
than,
that's not a problem, pay $40 to get my people to work so they can be productive. So I think those are options, things on the table, there is good conversation here. You know, we apologize for the distraction, you're gonna have that, when you put a bunch of different temperaments, styles, and convictions in one room, and different opinions, you're gonna have some arguing, but the greater thing is, we're all moving forward, when there's nobody here said, nope, we're not doing transportation, everybody to the person said, we need transportation, we need a better way, we need a way, but we just differ a little bit sometimes of where the money's gonna come from, because someone's gonna pay for it. There is no money tree, so it's either gonna come out of a tax, it's gonna come out of a bank account, it's gonna come out of somewhere, where we're gonna have to cut services somewhere to put money into something else. So, there is nothing free. We did get free money from the state, so we had WRTA for 3 years, for free to the people of Trumbull County, but that riverbed's dried up.
So the money you were saying that they found, how long before we know if we'll be, or be able to match it, so we can get the.
Well, what I have to do, I'm gonna put a plan together and start working on it ASAP. I gotta get, I'm gonna have to have probably one of the commissioners go with me to the city of Warren to meet with Mayor Franklin, see if the city of Warren's willing to put anything in on this. Once we have that.
I would like to start with, Mike, by proposing, when you meet with Mayor Franklin,
Yeah.
if we gotta pony up $297,000, I'd like to see the city of Warren pay half of it. If they can't pay
If
half,
they can pay half,
maybe
right.
they pay 3/4 and now it's
Right, that's why I said, we start with 50/50 and then we work our way down.
Right.
So that's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna set up a I'll set up a meeting.
They're doing raises there, they are doing other things
Yeah.
with their money,
So that's where it's
they
gonna
can
start.
afford it.
And it's not just Mayor Franklin, if we wanna, if you need a commissioner and yourself, or
Right.
if we wanna go to the, city council meetings,
That's what we're gonna have
Niles
to
and
do,
Warren,
because it's
that's
just
fine
on
by
Mayor
me.
Franklin, because we've already had the
It's
conversation.
a benefit to
He's gotta
to
go
their
to the
constituents.
council to get it okayed also. Yeah, so that's where we're at with that.
What did you say Niles
Huh?
for? Why did you say
I
Niles?
didn't say that.
Someone said
I said no.
Niles is not one of the routes.
But there is the Warren Express that'll bring people from Niles to here to get north to Elm Road, or to get the other way.
Depends on how many of their.
go to Niles, it just goes from the mall. Nobody in Niles can actually
Yeah.
use the Warren Express
That's-
unless they're at the mall.
Yeah, that's
So
a,
that's
not,
a real problem, and that bus doesn't even actually serve Niles, just the mall.
that's the Warren Express. It's,
So they need something to change there.
yeah, there is no route that Niles that would service Niles, so you wouldn't go to Niles.
There's one other thing I just wanna say before we close here. And Dave, I'm put you on the spot here a little bit, Dave. You've been receiving a couple texts from Diane,
Yes.
and regarding the senior levy. Like Diane and he's got it on his phone, it's not on mine, don't ask me why, but it's on his. But anyways, like Diane is stating, there's more seniors, you know, we're getting more seniors now coming.
Yeah, sure.
Okay? Number two.
And we will, we got an
We will,
aging base.
right, you know, because you're talking about the senior levy, an increase possibly. The other part of it is, and I apologize, I think it was 2005?
It's,
Since
yeah,
the
we're,
inception of the levy, there's never been
There's never been an increase.
yeah, we're using 2005 rates
Right.
right now on that levy.
It's up to the commissioners whether we wanna raise it or
Right.
not. I mean, that's what it comes
So
down
that's, I mean, it's the other thing too. It's not just for transportation. The senior levy covers a lot more than just transportation.
We have waiting lists on all kinds of.
Well, here,
protective
and if I
services.
may, I'll
And
read
it
what
will
Diane
free up
said.
money, yeah.
Diane said, senior levy is paying 2023 services with 2005 rates. We have waiting lists everywhere. If we stop getting 5310 funds, then we would be in trouble without the grant. And senior population is rising through 2030. Try not increasing the levy and serve double the senior population in $2,005. Yes, transportation without the 5310 grant would break our bank with our 2005 funds. With the grant, we still need more money to cover wait lists.
Good news, on a lighter note, I guess, but that grant that she's going after, through the Ohio Department of Aging, some of that money can be used towards transportation. That's gonna be a $750,000 grant. We feel, at least tentatively, that some of that money can go to senior transit, so that's gonna be a help too.
And I
in the
know,
coming-
and that, according to Diane at that workshop, was going to be the springboard for trying to pitch, the sales tax, to say, look what all we can do, now we need to increase it to continue, so,
You mean the,
yeah, the grant.
Just, yeah. I just wanted to throw that out at this point because we were talking about the seniors and, no, I will definitely be working on this. I will talk with, set up a meeting with Mayor Franklin and where we go with it.
okay.
All right, I guess,
Adjourn, but is there?
I think we've heard from Mr. Joseph, you got last comment?
Oh. Last one.
Last call.
I have to tell you, I'm a little confused with this meeting. We got really sidetracked. So I don't know, is this going to be a weekly, event?
No, I don't think weekly. I think we will have another one once we see if we get the grant to keep this
Okay.
other route running. But I don't think there's anything else we could do at this time without money or without the 5307. If we get an update or a status change on that, then I could see reconvening something. But we don't have our hands on that money. We can't do anything without that designation. But meeting together again, I don't think would do any good.
Right, well, my
I
recommendation.
don't,
Excuse me.
hold on one second.
Go on.
'Cause you guys have been talking a lot. And I don't know what, anyway, there are other things we can be doing. And I always look 5 years down the road, I do. And I know transportation can't wait that long, don't get me wrong. But I'm just throwing this out to the three of you. There's enough brain power in here. Is there a way that you can create, the way I look at this animal, it's an elephant. You gotta take it one piece at a time. And you're working on a lot of budget money and a lot of money and trying to figure out how you can compromise to come up with a solution, because we all desperately need the solution, all of us. Can you formulate or put together a small group, because there's three pieces to this thing. One is the money, the other is the administrative, or the federal government, the state legislature, right, so the lawyer side of it, and the other is the consumer side of it. Those are the three pieces that I see. Can we have a small committee, just a handful of people, preferably not commissioners, or maybe one, where we can look at what we need as consumers? Because none of you have talked about what the needs of the consumers are. You've talked about the money, which is critical, because you can't do anything without the money. But when you get the money, then you gotta go and figure out what's the plan. Why can't we kind of work them simultaneously, where we have a small group that gets together once every 2 weeks, something like that, and says, this is what we need, this is what we like, this is what we hate, this is what would make it more efficient. This is our target base, pros and cons. And then when you find the money, because we can't find the money, when you find the money, we can kind of go, okay, here's our plan. And then you've eliminated a portion of time. Otherwise, you're gonna say, okay, we got the money, now what do we do?
Okay, so if.
And then we gotta start all over. Do you understand what I'm saying?
Yes,
And
absolutely.
I know if that's out,
If we do get funding and we become an RTA, which is extremely unlikely.
whatever the funding comes from.
Okay, it's extremely unlikely, and that is the only place that the funding's coming from, by the way.
Oh, okay, okay.
So, you would be required to have a board. So, at that point in time, if say Trumbull County just established an RTA themselves or through another transit, there would have to be a board, and at that point in time, they would assess the needs. Just like if we were going to join WRTA, we would have representation from Trumbull County on their board to identify what the needs are in Trumbull County to provide those services. So that's gonna come down the road. It's not without planning and forethought if they actually do it the right way. But I do wanna say, I don't think that our Board of Commissioners, while the majority is committed to misunderstanding what WRTA would provide and the needs of the people, is going to do much to advance transportation. That's my opinion. So if you wanna meet with them every other week, to
Well, I'm not-
express your complaints, my concern
I don't wanna meet with them at all.
Yeah, it's a waste, to me, it sounds like, to me, it would be a waste of time, because everyone has known what the needs are.
But aren't you going to have to eventually go back to the consumer to find out what they want, or are you just gonna throw it at them?
It doesn't matter, she wants WRTA, it doesn't matter. She's already said that
Well, that's
repeatedly.
where I'm coming
I'm
from.
familiar.
Repeatedly.
I'm familiar, I look at the statistics, I understand what we've been providing, I understand what it would be. It's like a car dealership, or the concept of, a shopping area, like at the mall, things are together. So imagine if you got rides with the senior levy, and you've got, and then now all of a sudden we have more transportation. The more transportation that is out there, the more people will start using transportation, if that makes any sense.
I agree.
That's a fact. So,
If you market it correctly.
well, just by virtue of actually having reliable transit all over Trumbull County, then.
But that's not where I'm going. I'm sorry to
Okay.
interrupt you, but you're
Right.
going down one road. I'm going down the whole highway. What I'm saying is, there are, yes,
All
the
over.
buses, yes.
No,
I
I'm
agree with
saying
the
all
zoning,
over.
I agree with all that stuff.
Okay.
But there are needs that you're unaware of that we need. Because we haven't presented a plan that says, hey, look at, these are the, you can't possibly know what's going on out there. I don't even know what's going on out there, and I'm out there. For 7 years I've been out there. There are constantly things that are need to be tweaked or addressed. And that's all I'm saying is, and then we present it to the board and we say, this is what we came up with, how much of this can you give us? I'm just saying,
We've got kind of we have kind of a triad of people that have been involved since day one, yourself included, the two next to me. Having a consumer advisory board, I see no problem with at all. You can utilize the commissioner's hearing room at any time that you wanna do that. If you wanna chair it,
No,
or
not at any
you wanna.
time, we
Oh,
make.
When we, of course, upon scheduling, of course, availability.
But it
Or-
cannot be for public, though. You would have to, one of the commissioners or someone would have to be here in order to.
can
Well,
Really?
I could
You can meet us
facilitate the
library.
meeting.
Really?
Yeah, there you go.
You're the
Without-
transit.
Yeah, and the
But
transit
my
minister.
point is I wouldn't want you to waste your time, because every commissioner understands the need, understood that the transit was going to end, and still let it happen. So I don't want you guys to waste your time until we know that the funds are in place, because if you're already meeting, you have the needs evaluated, then if there is an RTA, either by regionalizing or by us having our own, then a board would be established, and you can bring those things to the board and participate that way in a public meeting.
Commissioner, hang on one second, Commissioner, I'm sorry. There's one piece that you're missing. There's one misquote, that we're not wasting our time. We're here because we want to help. And if we can be a piece in this puzzle, where we can help even this much, you're gonna get buy-in from you're gonna get a buy-in from your community. Because let's face it, Trumbull County is a pretty tight community. We don't want Mahoning County in our business. We're pretty tight. And if you can get a few people involved, and we can get our public generated, it's gonna make it I can't believe it would be a bad thing. And it would only save time.
What do you mean
That's
by
just
we
my
don't want
angle.
Mahoney
So
County?
it's not, you're not wasting our time. Honestly, you're not.
What did you mean by we don't want Mahoney County?
No, I'm referring back to what this gentleman said. We don't I'm just referring back to what
Yep.
this gentleman said. We don't want Mahoney County dictating our progress.
Oh,
I'm just using that as an
Yep.
example.
if it were with WRTA, we'd have.
But I'm not using
No,
WRTA.
but I'm saying we would have representation on the board to make those decisions. And there'd be public meetings too,
I
in order
agree.
to change routes and to establish the services.
They're gonna be regulated.
Yeah,
Yeah, I agree. That's just my thought, that's all.
okay. Motion to,
Okay, now, like,
Mark,
Mark, is it? Yeah, I agree with Mark wholeheartedly. We need to form a advisory board of consumers, okay? Because you commissioners are hard at work here in the office. How many times do you guys actually go out in the public and see actually what's going on? That's why we need to form this advisory board of the consumers to meet like every other week or whatever. And then please don't interrupt me, okay? Please don't interrupt
I
me.
just said, do what you wanna do.
Please don't interrupt me, okay? Now, even if we do when we do form this board, okay? I think we should start it right away. And I will even talk to Mike Wilson, the director down at Orange Grove Senior Center, and we could even meet down there.
Actually, that might be a better idea. That way it stays away from here.
Right.
Yes.
And we
I
can
can meet
meet
with
down
him, yeah.
there,
At the Scope and Warren, yeah.
and
Michael,
Even-
will you set this up
And
with
the
individuals?
I'll work on it. I'll get the names from, I will get the names, thank you, Lisa. I will get the, I'll get the names from Lisa, and I will send out, either call you or whatever, and we'll see what day would work good for you, and I will get hold of Mike.
Everything.
I'll be glad to do
Your way or
it,
no
yeah,
way.
that's not a problem.
Shake your hand, trying to be nice.
Because this is all part of the plan for the 5307 that we're working on, this is all part of moving forward.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You're gonna be a busy man. We're gonna make sure you're busy.
Whatever.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay, well, good, I'm glad we got a lot of good ideas on the table, we'll continue on with this, I do love the idea of that, you guys getting together, you can call it any time. We are a public body here, and we can do whatever we want. We're commissioners up here, and two commissioners, we can implement a system tomorrow, we can write a check for $7 million tomorrow if we thought it was a good use of taxpayer dollars. We don't have to go the raise taxes, this and that, we've got investments, we've got money, our auditor won't like it, the other departments won't like it, but if there is a solution, we can pay for the solution if the solution fits. We can't just throw money around and be irresponsible with the taxpayers' dollars. We have to figure out what's gonna work for the most amount of people, but we have the power to do that. So don't think all we can do is WRTA, or WRTA or nothing. There could be a blend, WRTA could be a part of the solution. There are other parts too. We could have many movable parts that fit. And whatever the cost is, we'll decide if that's a best use of taxpayer dollars. You guys will have input, we're gonna find a solution.
And keep in mind, when we wish we could throw $10 million at every problem we have in the county, but we have mandated services that we must fund by Ohio Revised Code, or else there's big trouble for us. We have to fund the jail, we have to fund the police force, we have to fund the courts, there are certain things that we have to make sure we have funding for that we have to do. There's no ifs, ands, or buts. Now, whatever's left in that money, we can use towards transportation. It's not a mandated service. I wish it was. It's not. So we have to constantly juggle those funds, and try to eke out what we can for these types of services.
Yeah, I'm open-minded for if we come up with a solution, I think we know exactly where one stands. Mara seems open-minded, let's find what's best for everybody.
Agreed.
So with that, I'll take a motion.
I'll make motion to adjourn.
Second.
Mr. Cantala Mesa.
Yes.
Mark, yes.
Want me to call?
Thank you again.
Thank you.